Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So I wanted to do another iceberg since not only do they do good on my channel, but I also just wanted to make another one, but I was out of ideas, so you know what I did? I went to Reddit, went over to that Reddit search bar and typed iceberg. So I scrolled for a bit looking for some juicy icebergs to go over, and then I saw this. Just Some White TPer on Reddit has made this big iceberg with over 170 entries to go over. I'll try to talk as in-depth on many of these topics as I can since I don't really need to leave out on any kind of important information. I'll usually skim over topics that don't have much info to go over or are just uninteresting and don't really have anything much to them. I also want to go over a few things about the video before we start. First of all, I didn't want to do this video alone, so I decided to enlist the help of a very special friend of mine. So everybody, welcome the one and only Matt's Animate. You'll see him narrate some entries of the iceberg throughout the video. Special thanks to him for giving me a helping hand for this video, so please go check him out after this video. He deserves all the love you can give him. Second, we're going to be talking about some sensitive topics here, so if you're sensitive to stuff like gore and not family-friendly subject matter, might want to skip this one out, or just skip some of the more darker topics on this iceberg. Also, I wasn't made aware of this until after I was almost done writing the script for this video, but I discovered that the creator had made 2 updates to this iceberg, which pretty much doubled its size. I'm just going to be going over the original version because not only do I not want to burn myself out, but I feel like it would just be better if I stick with talking about the original version of the iceberg. So yes, I was aware that there were updates to this iceberg, and perhaps someday I'll make an update to this video covering those entries. That someday will not be today though. And lastly, there is going to be a certain someone who will make a very special appearance in the video, so keep watching till then. Anyways, let's get down to business. This is the Somewhat Okay Internet Iceberg. Friday Night Funkin'. Releasing on October 5th, 2020, Friday Night Funkin' is an indie game made by Ninja Muffin 99 that took the internet by storm around late 2020 or early 2021. It's a rhythm game that takes a similar shape to that of Dance Dance Revolution and Parappa the Rapper, and nowadays it's arguably one of the most popular games around the internet. So much so that the creators of the game made a Kickstarter that promised a bunch of content for the final version of the game, and needless to say, it reached its goal. The game is also well known for how expansive and absolutely enormous the modding around the game has become. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of mods of Friday Night Funkin', whether it be an entirely new game or just a reskin. The game is immensely big on the internet. I also have to mention this too, but the outrage I've seen of people not knowing characters like Skid and Pump and Pico aren't from Friday Night Funkin' is both sad and hilarious. Like seriously, people get so mad when someone says something like Pico from Friday Night Funkin' and Tricky from Friday Night Funkin', to the point where I could make a whole video on just that whole topic in itself. But long story short, Friday Night Funkin' was an indie game that blew up in no way that anyone could have ever expected, and it is a current staple of the internet. Tom Scott. Tom Scott is a popular YouTuber with about 4.3 million subscribers as of releasing this video. He's an educator, game show host, and web developer, but of course he's most known for posting videos on YouTube. His content consists of general educational and experimental videos with topics like science, history, and technology. Tom Scott is known for a few things that he has done ever since he originally created his YouTube channel in 2006. One of these was during the 2010 UK general election. After Tom Scott had lost a bet regarding whether or not the New Orleans Saints would win the Super Bowl in 2010, he ran for Parliament in London and Westminster by the name Mad Captain Tom. Things that he pledged while he was running for Parliament were to offer school course lessons in swordsmanship and gunnery, give out free rolls of duct tape to, and I quote, fix broken Britain, and then he said he would put a 50% tax on downloads of Cheryl Cole's MP3s just because he disliked the singer. He ended up getting up to 84 votes while running, which was about 0.2% of the total votes made for the Parliament, including the vote of Noel Gallagher, who is the lead guitarist of Oasis. I don't know, I just find that hilarious. Other projects that Tom Scott has made involve an app called Evil, which revealed the phone numbers of Facebook users. That sounds very wrong. Tweeted, which was an app that showed Twitter posts that had been deleted, and What's Osama Been Watchin', which was an app that put together an image of Osama bin Laden with internet memes. For some reason, it just seems like Tom Scott is a very successful person with quite a few misadventures as a part of his history. Reddit. Reddit is a relatively well-known website that originally launched on June 23rd, 2005. It didn't really get popular, however, until around 2009. The reason why Reddit is so famous is because of the different kinds of groups on Reddit that are referred to as subreddits. Subreddits are essentially different types of topics that are put there for people to talk about and such. So for example, there is r/Olympics, which is a subreddit which discusses Olympics. There is r/paranormal, which discusses about stuff relating to the paranormal, whether it is discussing real events or simple ideas or events, and there are many subreddits on Reddit for almost anything you can think of. There are so many subreddits that as of 2019, there are over 130,000 active communities, and that number is probably even higher. And as of making and releasing this video, there are about 2.8 million different subreddits. Reddit is also well known as being a breeding ground for a lot of memes, which I'm sure is the reason why most of us are familiar with Reddit. Given how big the website is in size, it's no question why it continues to be used by so many people today. Five Nights at Freddy's. I mean, if you've watched my channel for even a second, you probably don't even need an explanation for this one. Just in case though, Five Nights at Freddy's is a very popular indie horror game developed by Scott Cawthon, who originally was known for developing other games like Chipper and Sons and The Desolate Hope, which, by the way, The Desolate Hope is a very underrated game. Please go check that out. Ever since its initial release, Five Nights at Freddy's has been considered as one of the most famous and influential indie horror games ever. Not only does it sprout a bunch of merchandise, but it has a massive community around it with immeasurable amounts of fan games. I don't need to get personal here or anything, but ever since I joined the game in late 2014, it's felt surreal to see how far the game has come to this relatively small series, to this massive name that has all these different projects and things behind it. And even though the original creator has retired from the franchise, I have good faith in what will come from the series in the future.
Morgs, everybody's least favorite British person. If you don't know Morgs, which, like, how do you not? Morgs is a 20-year-old male who dropped out of high school at the age of 15 to make awfully cringy videos with his parents. They do everything from the pause challenge.
It's like the perfect example of YouTube these days. You can't do anything. What, there's not $10,000 on the line?
To copying everything Mr. Beast does. With, of course, $10,000 on the line. Because it just wouldn't be a YouTube video without $10,000 on the line. Morgs makes challenge videos in which he tries to appeal to kids so they can buy his merch. He even held a MorgsCon once, but I won't get into that. If you want to hear more, the two best videos I recommend is How Haters Made Morgs Rich by Andre Tabia and Pause Challenge Exposed Not Happy $10,000 Cringe Tuesdays number 4 by PewDiePie.
Dream SMP. For the unfamiliar, Dream is a very popular Minecraft YouTuber who has been known to have probably one of the most elusive dramas in all of the internet. The entry on the iceberg is just referring to his Minecraft SMP and all the wacky things that happen over there. The SMP itself has a plot, a whole history of events occurring on the server like wars, factions, alliances, and characters. Yeah, I wasn't sure what I was expecting, to be entirely honest. Honestly, I never watched Dream or any of his content, but I'm assuming this entry is just referring to how in-depth his SMP is, and I'm afraid that if I go any deeper, I'll get caught up in this rabbit hole of lore and stuff that I can't reach the end of, so I think I'm gonna move on.
ASDF, or ASDF Movie, is an extremely popular online comedy series comprising of 14 videos, or movies. Within the movies themselves, there are several shorts reminiscent of the short 6-second Vine clips. ASDF blew up in 2008 and stretched from places such as YouTube all the way to my Nintendo DS on Flipnote. Hey, look at that. This was when Tomska was moving to upgrade his work, and this is where he transitioned from 4x3 to 16x9. ASDF has gone on to spawn memes, merch, and even a card game. Tomska, if you see this, please call me.
DeviantArt. DeviantArt is a rather controversial art sharing website that has garnered a lot of attention throughout the years. Chances are you've at least heard of DeviantArt once. So what is it about DeviantArt that makes it controversial? Many questionable and just disgusting pieces of art exist on DeviantArt and are continuing to be posted on a constant basis. That's typically what DeviantArt is known for anyways. Apparently Russia recently banned DeviantArt since the site didn't delete many of its disgusting content that people had posted, so like, Good job, guys. Many professional artists who use DeviantArt as well also left because DeviantArt just refused to delete any of the disgusting artwork on their site. If that wasn't bad enough, their TOS used to have a rule where they owned all of the artwork that was posted on there, which meant they could advertise their website using your artwork. They couldn't do stuff like publish your work on other products that would get the money, but it was eventually changed for obvious reasons. Nowadays, DeviantArt doesn't own any of the artwork posted, but it still garnered a lot of controversy under its belt. Dark web YouTube videos. There exists a genre on YouTube where it's mainly people who claim to have been contacted or something from the dark web, or they bought something from the dark web and they make videos on it. One of the most popular offenders of this is a YouTuber named JStation, who is quite well known for having made countless dark web videos where he was either contacted or had bought something off the dark web, and we're actually going to be talking more in depth about him later, so stay tuned for that. Furries. The furry community is a fairly popular community on the internet where people make their own OCs based off of animals named fursonas, and real life fursona costumes have been made for this community. The furry community is particularly well known for the amount of slander and hate it receives for many who are in it. And don't get me wrong, there are definitely some messed up people in the community, but from what I understand, a good amount of the hate targeted towards furries is kind of overdone, and for the most part, it's just typically done for clout. Creepypasta. I'm pretty sure you guys know what a creepypasta is at this point, but for the very few of you who don't know, a creepypasta is essentially an internet horror story that is often posted on something like a forum or website. The term creepypasta was taken from the term copypasta, and unlike its predecessor, the point of a creepypasta is to creep out or scare the reader. Examples of famous creepypastas include The Slender Man, Suicide Mouse.avi, and Jeff the Killer, although the latter of which I hate to admit because, bad. There are countless numbers of creepypastas on the internet, so talking about all of them would be nigh impossible, so maybe later on I'll talk about specific types of creepypastas. Stock images. So there is a certain type of image on the internet called stock images. They're essentially images made by a specific company or site and are used by individuals or companies for stuff like marketing, websites, and so on. Stock images have kind of turned into a meme amongst the internet just for the way many stock images are made and how many stock images just look kind of funny. Logan Paul's Suicide Forest. Alright, so I'm fairly confident you know who Logan Paul is. He's a very controversial vlog YouTuber, but perhaps one of his most popular controversies occurred in a forest known as Aokigahara, which is very well known in Japan as a forest where many people commit suicide. Well, in 2017, Logan Paul visited the Aokigahara forest and filmed himself touching and poking a dead body in the forest before uploading it to YouTube. Reasonably, many people were upset at Logan Paul for this video, which later led to making an apology video as well as taking the video off of YouTube. Not only this, but as a result of this controversy, Logan Paul was removed from some of Google's ad programs, and one of his movies was also put on a hold because of the whole thing. So yeah, Logan Paul put himself in a really tight situation, and the whole thing is known as one of Logan Paul's most infamous controversies. Steam. Steam is a very massive PC gaming store with a wide array of games that was originally made in 2003 by Valve. What makes Steam stand out for most other gaming store apps like the Epic Game Store is just how expansive it is. Steam has over 30,000 games on its shelf. Many famous games are also on Steam, like Cuphead, Omori, and Undertale, so there's just a bunch of stuff to get into and look at on Steam. BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed is a media news company who are known to, share news on digital media mostly. It was founded in 2006 and there really isn't too much to it other than that. From what I could find, it has just a bunch of weird topics that it often shares and stuff that the average person probably wouldn't care about that much. That said, it's been going on for about 15 years and it's likely that it'll keep going on for longer. Know Your Meme. Know Your Meme is a website that is known for documenting various kinds of memes and other internet phenomena like viral videos, images, and internet celebrities. It's sort of like a Wikipedia for memes in a way, and I actually use Know Your Meme for getting information on some of the later topics on the iceberg, so Good for them. Pepe the Frog. Pepe the Frog is a popular character based off of an image of a comically drawn cartoon frog. Pepe the Frog is sort of one of the early memes of the internet, and still is referenced and brought up to this day just for how funny he looks. Various renditions of Pepe the Frog also exist on the internet, just with edits and stuff for nothing more than comedic effect. Internet prawn. Pretty self-explanatory. Internet prawn is just talking about porn that exists on the internet. This can take the form of people in real life or fictional characters, but you get the idea. After all, considering this is the internet, it is likely to find many prawn related stuff on the internet, regardless of where you go. Simpsons predict the future. Throughout The Simpsons' over 30-year run, several predictions have been made in the show. For example, in one episode, Homer is seen holding an Apple phone, despite them not having been made when the episode aired. The show also predicted stuff like the 2016 presidency election, smartwatches, and even Disney buying out Fox. These are just some of the more notable examples of this, and there are countless situations where it has predicted events. If you ask me, the people working on The Simpsons probably made a time machine before the government figured out how to do it. Belle Delphine. Belle Delphine is a rather notorious internet celebrity who is usually a laughingstock for many people, mainly because Belle Delphine was kind of the source of that stupid Ahego meme that was trending for a good long time a while back, and I guess she used to have an OnlyFans, and knowing the internet, she made a bunch of money off of that. Other than that, though, she's just kind of a meme, and nowadays she hasn't really posted any updates on any of her social media. So she just took all that OnlyFans money and then just dipped, I guess.
Most people know about this, and if you don't, here's the scoop. Popular YouTuber Felix Arvid Ulf Kjellberg, I probably butchered that, or otherwise known as PewDiePie, an online gaming YouTuber, reigned as the most subscribed channel on YouTube. Then, in 2016, a small channel started to blow up and catch up to the likes of Markiplier and MrBeast. Then, in 2018, it started to catch up to PewDiePie and the online war, aka PewDiePie vs. T-Series, spawning diss tracks, merch, and billboards? People such as MrBeast would go around promoting PewDiePie to try and beat T-Series to 100 million subscribers. But then, on May 29th, 2019, T-Series reached 100 million subscribers with PewDiePie only at 92 million. When YouTube was first created in 2005, this was the first video ever uploaded to the site. There isn't much to say about this one.
Omegle. Omegle is a pretty popular website that revolves around you going around and talking to random strangers from across the planet. That's really all it is, and it's garnered a lot of notoriety for that. Obviously, there have been many issues regarding usage of the website, like many people exposing themselves and such, and of course, considering how weird some people can be, usage of the site can lead to odd incidents. It's for this reason that you must be at least 18 years of age to use the website, so as to not put minors at risk of anything anyone might do on the website. Ryan's World. Ryan's World is a very popular YouTube channel with around 29 million subscribers. As of writing this video, they have around 47 billion video views in total, which is an absurd number to say the least. Ryan's World is one of those channels that often pops up on YouTube Kids and is one that constantly shows up when kids are using it since they don't know how to use the autoplay button. Apparently the mother of Ryan in the Ryan's World channel has an arrest record, and knowing how some of these other family channels go, make of that what you will. Photoshop memes. I'm pretty sure this is just referring to memes that are made using Photoshop. For example, there's this one picture of a two-legged cat that was a big meme for a while that was made using Photoshop. There are other memes like this one, but the general idea is just that memes like this one are memes made using Photoshop. VTubers. VTubers are entertainers who use a virtual avatar by using motion capture technology to allow their own virtual avatar to move around and speak like a real person. There are many types of VTubers around, but the most popular types of VTubers are usually those representing anime girls. And yes, saying that sentence unironically is a little hilarious. Still, it's a pretty common feature of the internet. Tumblr. Tumblr is a blogging website that was pretty well known for its constant NSFW-like content on it, and for a while it just sort of existed as that. That was, however, until November of 2018 when Tumblr announced a ban on adult content off the website when pictures of child pornography were found to be spreading on Tumblr. An automatic content recognition system was implemented once this ban was announced, which led to the termination of many non-related images on the site. Overall, this was a decision that a lot of people using Tumblr were not happy about, but then they just migrated to Twitter, so I guess it wasn't that big of a loss to begin with. Outside of that, Tumblr is just a typical blogging website that isn't used that much nowadays, because I guess people really need a place for their NSFW needs. Among Us. r/askreddit. r/askreddit is a subreddit where users can ask open-ended questions to which other users can reply with answers. It is said to be a subreddit to ask and answer questions that elicit thought-provoking discussions. r/askreddit is one of the most popular subreddits on Reddit, and we did talk about Reddit before, so yeah, it's an example of a very popular and widely used subreddit that exists on Reddit. Wattpad. Wattpad is a site where people can write their own stories and pieces of work and publish it to the site for people to read. Many types of writing exist on Wattpad, but the most popular are arguably fanfiction. Wattpad is very well known for people writing extremely weird fanfictions on the site, but it's also known to be a place for people to meme around and make joke fanfictions. I remember this one time where someone had written a fanfiction on a Raider X Bicky Cheese story. I read it and it was hilarious. Rickrolling. Rickrolling is a very common form of trolling on the internet and one most people know about. It is when someone puts down a form of media that leads to a video of Rick Astley dancing from the song Never Gonna Give You Up. Many forms of rickrolling exist, like just putting the actual music video, as well as other more devious methods of rickrolling people, like implementing links that lead to the video. Rickrolling has been a thing for a very long time and is something that many people are very well familiar with. Cursed images. This is basically just a meme at this point, but cursed images refers to the phrase that is used when there is an image that makes people uncomfortable looking at it. There are various types of quote-unquote cursed images on the internet, and like I said, it's mainly played off as a meme most of the time. Oh, and to give you an idea of what a cursed image is supposed to look like, some of them aren't too terribly bad, however, some of them look like this.
SMG4, also known as Super Mario Glitchy 4, is an Australian adult animated sitcom web series created by brothers Luke and Kevin Lerwichkull. Thanks, SMG4 Wiki. They created Super Mario 64 animations, kind of like an animated SML, and soon became very popular. After their reach to over 1 million subscribers, they've continued making things such as Meta Runner and other shows. So I would like to be a voice actor.
J-Station. Oh boy, can't wait to toast this guy. So, J-Station is this really infamous YouTuber who makes these series of clickbaity 3 a.m. videos. Throughout the years, J-Station has found himself in a whole mist of controversy, and it's eventually led to his channel being terminated on March 12, 2021. J-Station is often known for doing extremely disgusting and terrible things to get views on his videos. One of his most famous controversies was that revolving around the suicide of a popular reaction star named Etika, who after having been missing for a week was found to have committed suicide. Not even a day after Etika was pronounced dead, J-Station made a 3 a.m. challenge video revolving around Etika's death. Major backlash was implemented onto J-Station, and what made it worse was that J-Station didn't even seem to feel much sympathy for the whole thing. However, his career finally came to a boil when he made a video about how his girlfriend had supposedly been killed by a drunk driver in Toronto, Canada. As you can imagine, his very much alive girlfriend was not very happy to know what he had done, and this led to her breaking up with J-Station, in which he essentially attempted to drag her down with him, making up all sorts of lies to save his skin, too many for me to list. Finally, the nightmare ended on the 12th of March in 2021, when both of J-Station's channels, both his main one and his second channel, were terminated, and so it seems the beast is gone for good, hopefully. Graham Greydog described him best, saying that he is a vulture who feasts off the remains of those who have since passed to benefit himself. Yep, couldn't have said it better.
Club Penguin was a site where players could play games, customize their igloo, or meet with other players. Club Penguin was sadly deleted by Disney on March 30th of 2017 and replaced with Club Penguin Island, a 3D spin-off, on March 29th of 2017. Island was later shut down in December of 2018, effectively making it a single-player experience, completely removing the charm and purpose of the original Club Penguin in the first place. The only way to play Club Penguin now is on fan servers like Club Penguin Rewritten.
Alex Jones. Alex Jones was a popular conspiracy theorist who is mainly just played off as a meme at this time and age. He's actually pretty well known in the realm of conspiracy theorists in general, in that he's just a lunatic. One of the more popular conspiracy theories that he is known for involved that of the school shooting at Sandy Hook in 2012. If you don't know, on December of 2012, the Sandy Hook Elementary School was infiltrated by a school shooter in which many kids and staff died, and after the shooting occurred, there was a popular conspiracy theorist going around that the whole shooting was staged in an attempt for the government to pass stricter gun laws. Alex Jones was one of these conspiracy theorists, and for the longest time, he was one of the most vocal activists for the conspiracy. While he has since moved on from the conspiracy, the damage has already been done, and many of the families of the victims from the shooting had been affected by the conspiracy. Like I said before, he's mostly just used as a meme nowadays, but from what I can tell, people still remember the story of the shooting and Alex Jones' affiliation with it. Jack Stauber. Jack Stauber is a musician who is most known for his content on YouTube. His content is often surreal and disturbing to watch, but he typically implements a message or pattern to what he showcases. He's made a ton of work, and while his videos can be a bit unsettling to watch, I'd recommend you go check out his channel after this video if you can handle that kind of stuff, because if you can get over that, then it's genuinely good. Poland Ball. Poland Ball, or alternatively called Country Balls, is an art style which typically showcases countries represented as spherical characters with their flag on it. Some people might remember the whole Poland Ball art style from the game Agario, in which it contained many of these supposed types of country balls. It's kind of an old school art style that may not sound familiar at first, but as soon as you look into it, you're like, oh, that, yeah, I remember that. 4chan. Like Reddit, 4chan is fairly popular amongst the internet simply for its status. What makes 4chan unique is that it's anonymous, meaning people can go out and post whatever, whilst remaining conspicuous as to who they are. It's for good reason that 4chan is often the site of an immense amount of trolling, and this is the main reason why 4chan is as popular as it is. Despite that status, 4chan can serve some legitimate uses. Like Reddit, 4chan is very big in just how many topics it holds, with various kinds of forums within it, like video games, music, literature, and sports. Despite this, 4chan is especially notable for being a breeding ground for trolls and scammers, with one such newspaper called The Guardian in 2008 calling the website lunatic and juvenile. And I don't mean trolling as in silly, haha, funny joking, like some things that have happened on 4chan, including many instances of threats of violence, cyberbullying, and at some point, people were even arrested for animal abuse and child pornography. Yeah, I've never even used 4chan, and judging from all of this, it seems like I'm not missing much. At least I think I don't want to miss. 9gggg. 9gggg is a social media platform made in Hong Kong that allows users to upload content to the site. It's sort of like the Hong Kong version of Facebook or Instagram or whatever you can compare it to. It was started in 2008 and is still active nowadays, but from what I can tell, it's one of those platforms that you might have heard of, but you just don't know what it's really like because you've never used it.
As a part of the ever-expanding SCU, or SML Cinematic Universe, on January 24th of 2016, a video by the name of Mario the Babysitter was published on SML. The character Jeffy started as a kind of funny spin on the annoying family member we all have, but over time has turned into a spoiled, annoying, and all-around bad character. Jeffy went from being actually somewhat funny to just being a horrible person. If you want the purest SML experience, go watch any video before Mario the Babysitter.
Iceberg chart. What you're watching right now. The whole iceberg trend was basically serialized by the creation of the Mario 64 iceberg, which I'm sure many of you have seen by now. This video by Mish Cause was kind of like the launch of the whole iceberg trend, and this entry is just talking about how there are several iceberg charts out there and many videos on YouTube diving into them.
Battle for Dream Island is a web series created by Jack and Jellyfy on YouTube. It revolves around a bunch of anthropomorphic objects who are competing in a competition to win the grand prize of Dream Island, a luxurious island. I love this series, and if you haven't, go watch it or else. I'm gonna die.
SCP Foundation. The SCP Foundation is a fictional foundation that is bound on taking any weird anomaly that they are called for, and it is their duty to secure it, contain it, and protect mankind from all the strange oddities of the world. There's an entire wiki on the SCP Foundation that has all sorts of mythical anomalies. These can vary from living beings to buildings, food, objects, and even locations at times. The first SCP to ever be discovered by the Foundation is known as SCP-173. It is described as a statue-like creature with small limbs and a bloody face. SCP-173 is incapable of moving so far as it is kept in a direct line of sight. If the viewer were to do so much as blink, then SCP-173 would be able to move at inexplicable speed. The known method of killing for SCP-173 is to snap the neck of its victim if it manages to reach it. SCP-173 is just one of the many popular SCPs created by the SCP Foundation. Other popular SCPs include SCP-049, SCP-096, and SCP-583. In total, there are over 5,000 different SCPs, with a wide-scale number of writers adding new ones to the Foundation. The SCP Foundation is a fascinating rabbit hole to go down, and its contents continue to be expanded upon. Vocaloid. Vocaloid is a voice synthesizer website that was started in 2000 in Spain that's used for music production. Vocaloid isn't that well known in the traditional sense, but some artists and things around it are more well known. For example, many of you are probably familiar with Hatsune Miku, and if it wasn't the FNF mother brought her popularity back up, then she was a Vocaloid voice speak before it stopped receiving updates, and now she's just kind of known on the internet today. YouTube poop. YouTube poops were immensely popular on YouTube during the late 2000s and the first half of the 2010s. They revolve around an episode, usually an episode of a cartoon, which features heavily edited and over-exaggerated humor. Many kinds of YouTube poops exist, but many old school YouTubers will remember the kind that was used when they were most popular. If you want an example of what a YouTube poop looks like, here's a couple of examples.
Like you comes along maybe once in a lifetime, and to reward you for helping me make me dollar, I'm taking you on an athlete trip. Some trip, baby, crap.
Holy Squidward! The sky had a Pokemon from my cereal box! Squidward! Squidward! The sky had a Pokemon.
That's not a
Pokemon.
That's a gay Luigi. Now go away.
Homestar Runner. Homestar Runner is an American Flash animated comedy web series created in 2000 by Mike and Matt Chapman. The series is known to mix surreal humor, self-parody, and references to pop culture. Nowadays, the series has a whole series of cartoons and web games, and it has a website called homestarrunner.com. Back when the series was most popular, the website was one of the most visited websites at the time, and it had a long history with many of the cartoons that were produced on it. Although it isn't super big nowadays, back then it was absolutely massive with all sorts of collaborations, and it was something that was spread through the word of mouth, which, considering it's the internet, you gotta give props to them for that. That's really impressive. The Mandela Effect. This is something that I am glad to spread more information on. So, the Mandela Effect is a theory that multiple alternate universes of our own universe exist. These alternate universes have very slight changes as to what it has. Well, the theory is that different alternate universes cross over with each other at random points in time. So, what does that mean? Well, here's an example. You know how people have debated on the Looney Tunes logo being either Looney Tunes as in Toons or Looney Tunes as in Tunes? Well, this is an example of the Mandela Effect. It is said that at one point in alternate universe where the logo did really say Looney Tunes crossed over with our own, where people saw the different logo and got confused since a different alternate universe had crossed over with our own. Another notable example is the Berenstain Bears. People debate on whether the logo is the Berenstain Bears or the Berenstain Bears. As before, alternate universes crossing over with each other has caused this alternate logo to appear. These are just two of the many examples of the Mandela Effect coming into effect. And I say do your own research because it's pretty interesting how many times this has actually happened.
Video game emulators are ways of playing video games on a different device than intended. Even Nintendo uses emulators for things like their Nintendo Switch Online NES games and Super Mario 3D All-Stars. However, unless publicly released by the creator of the game, then it is illegal, unfortunately. Totally do not use them for 3DS games or like Persona 5, A YouTuber who reviews video games, but is angry? The Angry Video Game Nerd is a YouTuber who reviews video games similar to people like Scott the Woz. However, he focuses more on the negative side of things. However, his videos can be pretty comedical and entertaining.
Lost Media Wiki. The Lost Media Wiki is a website that is dedicated to documenting and finding various pieces of lost media. To this day, people on the Lost Media Wiki are finding and documenting several pieces of then lost media and recovering them. There is article after article of movies, books, TV shows, and sometimes even songs that are or used to be lost, so it's a very deep rabbit hole to get yourself into. That's a pretty basic idea of what the Lost Media Wiki is like, but there's a lot to invest yourself into if you do decide to visit their website. And considering it is finding and archiving various forms of media that was wiped from history, it's definitely a good cause and one that I recommend you go check out. GitHub. GitHub is a website dedicated to users sharing out source related stuff for development purposes, and it's kind of like a development and source sharing website. Originally founded in 2008, it was mainly used to host open source projects, and it has other notable features with its open source add-ons like bug tracking and feature requests. It's pretty cool. I've used the site before, and it's also been a subsidiary of Microsoft since 2018, so that's nice.
Yo, you can't kill Suction Cup, man! Look at me go!
Climbing his way into our hearts, Suction Cup Man started on October 4th, 2016, created by a popular online animator, Pymations. It originally started as a quick, funny bit akin to the stories and art style of South Park, a popular show on Comedy Central. It was indeed a success, spawning a sequel, Suction Cup Man 2, The Suck for America, in December of 2017, where he stops North Korea from bombing the US, and sings a song as he does. It would also later go on to spawn Suction Cup Man Remastered in July of 2019. However, in between Suction Cup Man 2 and the remaster, Pymations would release Suction Cup Man 3, one hell of a climb. In this one, our fabled hero, Suction Cup Man, dies and goes to hell, where he battles Satan, who's the most f***ed. He escapes and comes back to life, where he is shot in the face by the business dummy with a water gun. And that was all. Or so we thought. Because in June of 2021, Pymations released Suction Cup Man 4, Business or Pleasure. I'm not going to spoil this one, you're just going to have to watch it. It'll be in the iCard in the top right if Matt wants to be a good friend. Either that, or I'm looking like an idiot right now.
Touhou Project. The Touhou Project, or simply known as Touhou, is a shoot-'em-up video game series made by a one-man independent game producer, Team Shanghai Alice. The game revolves around the fictional story of Gensokyo, which literally translates to Fantasy Village in English, and originally in the town, people and yokai, which are creatures in Japanese urban legends, lived in balance, but after the disappearance of some humans in Gensokyo, humans became afraid of entering Gensokyo, and it led to the balance between the humans and the yokai seizing. Eventually, a seal for Gensokyo was made to keep the balance of humans and yokai, but as a result, no one could enter or leave Gensokyo. In present-day Gensokyo, a gateway to Gensokyo from the outside world is found, and after this is when all of the actual games take place. Did you catch all of that? Don't worry if you didn't, it took me a minute to process all of it too. The game series is notable for the fact that just this one guy has produced like 18 mainline games for the series, along with 5 spin-off titles. Like, if this was a company making these, I wouldn't be impressed, but this is just one guy, like, oh my god. Regardless, many people love the games and it is still relatively big, especially in Japan. The Onion. The Onion is a digital news organization that was initially formed in 1988. What makes The Onion stand out from other online news sources is that it's primarily satirical, so it covers both fictional and non-fictional events at the same time, and goes over them like a regular news layout. It's really funny because they'll take really normal and mundane stuff and make articles about it, like fireworks show in Houston, Texas drives neighbors into a frenzy, or something like that. The other hilarious thing about The Onion is, since it also covers non-fictional events, people will look at stories that The Onion has written and then cite the website as real news. Like, could you imagine you write some kind of assignment where you had to cite what website you got your information from, and then one of the citations is The Onion, so you check out their website and see a bunch of complete nonsense. People also complain that The Onion is too political, which is like, okay dude, but like, it's supposed to be a satirical news website, so Your argument doesn't really matter. So yeah, that's all I got for this one. Moving on. Everywhere at the End of Time. Oh boy. So, Everywhere at the End of Time is a series of 6 albums that were made by electronic artist Leyland James Kirby. The albums consist of rips of old 30s ballroom music, but the most important thing to know about Everywhere at the End of Time is its real meaning. The albums were made to represent the degrading decline of dementia and the different stages of it. This led to the albums being very well known amongst the internet, and for a bit it sort of became a challenge for people to listen to all 6 albums without crying, because considering the context of the albums and knowing this could be what people with dementia experience, it could get a bit emotional. I just want to say that listening to these albums, that it definitely does its job well to represent the decline and overall experience that people suffering from dementia probably feel. So I would just like to give all of those suffering from this terrible disease my best wishes. Michael Rosen. Michael Rosen is the guy who's responsible for those early meme clips that you would often see on the internet. If you don't know what I'm talking about, here's a few clips with him.
He starts up a chant. Go to bed, 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 go to bed. It goes on for ages. Go to bed, go to bed, go to bed, go to bed.
Other than that though, Michael Rosen is an author who has written like 140 books, which is like, okay, he's just kind of known on the internet for the memes. Leafy is Here. Leafy is Here was a rather controversial YouTuber who was well known for his edgy personality and his constant harassment towards people. However, in 2020, Leafy's channel was permanently terminated from YouTube, and it led to a massive debate as to what happened. While people argue that Leafy was rightfully banned for breaking YouTube's harassment policies, other people believe that the Twitch streamer Pokimane has something to do with the ban. Many of Leafy's videos that had been taken down before the ban were about Pokimane, and his Twitch was also taken down shortly after his YouTube channel was terminated. Some people believe Pokimane's fans mass reported Leafy's channel talking about her, which led to his channel being terminated. Regardless of what happened, the termination of Leafy's channel sparked a huge debate online that people still sometimes talk about today. Weird locations on Google Maps. Google Maps is known to have a whole slew of anomalies that have garnered a lot of interest. For example, there's a city in New York called New Baltimore that for a while had this weird ghostly effect when you were in the town. This glitch has since been fixed, but it's still pretty weird to see. There are also many areas around Google Maps that are blurred, blacked out, or are at such a low resolution that it's impossible to make out anything about it. Areas usually have these edits for privacy concerns, or just stuff that Google doesn't want people to see. So, for example, this house on screen is actually the house of Gumball Watterson from The Amazing World of Gumball. The creators of the show literally just used this house for the show, and you can find it on Google Maps. Nowadays, if you go to the house, it's blurred out, likely to protect the current homeowners. There are more examples of weird locations on Google Maps that I could go over, but I think you could probably get the idea. Parallel Pipes actually made an iceberg video talking about all the different anomalies on Google Maps, so go check that out after this video. MLG parody videos. On YouTube, there was a pretty big genre of videos throughout the early 2010s called MLG videos. MLG videos were often just videos that used a bunch of random memes and compiled it into one nonsensical video. Common traits of MLG videos involved smoking, those pixelated glasses that you've more than likely seen many times before, this gif of Snoop Dogg dancing, guns, and more. It was just a random genre that was funny just because it was random. Bonzi Buddy. Ah, Bonzi Buddy. I have a serious love-hate relationship with him. Bonzi Buddy was a virtual assistant that was made in 1999, and the main purpose was to do various different things throughout your computer, like manage downloads, sing songs, and share jokes and facts amongst other things. However, the creators of Bonzi Buddy got into hot waters when a lot of people argued against them after it was discovered that the virtual assistant would switch the user's default browser to a website called bonzi.com without the user's consent. Furthermore, it was heavily speculated that Bonzi Buddy was actually a spyware that would gather the user's info, and it would set up various serving advertisements, being called an adware. However, things came to a boil when in May of 2003 that the creators of Bonzi Buddy would be sued against a feature of Bonzi Buddy where its banner advertisements would deceptively imitate the sounds of Windows computer alerts, which would make Windows think that the user's IP was broadcasted. The creators ended up changing the advertisements to not trigger the Windows IP broadcasting alert. Nowadays though, Bonzi Buddy is more iconic for his memes and just how stupid the whole assistant actually was. Silva Gunner. Silva Gunner is a musical group that parodies a YouTube channel named Gilva Sunner. Silva Gunner's YouTube channel claims to be a channel with high quality rips of video game music, when in reality they take the music and make remixes of them, usually incorporating memes. The original Gilva Sunner channel actually does use the original music from video games, and Silva Gunner is just kind of a parody of that channel. Twitch Plays Pokemon. Twitch Plays Pokemon was a social experiment made on Twitch in an attempt to play Pokemon by using parsed commands that the chat puts down. It was very popular when it first announced in 2014, and considering the premise, yeah, you could imagine what the game looked like when over 80,000 people were in the stream at once. It led to situations like this happening. It got to a point where over 1 million people in total participated for this thing, which is such a huge number for an event like this, and the crazy thing is that it's still going on nowadays, albeit not as active as it used to be. Throughout the event's lifetime, a total of 85 different Pokemon playthroughs were made, which is completely mind-boggling how people managed to complete that many games in such a short amount of time, you know, considering what was going on. Filthy Frank. Filthy Frank, or also known as Pink Guy or Joji, is a Japanese singer who is most famously known for the many memes surrounding him. Before his YouTube channel became defunct, he used to publish rap songs, rants, extreme challenges, but perhaps most importantly, a show called The Filthy Frank Show. Back then, Filthy Frank was massive, with many other big YouTubers such as Jax Films, iDubbbz, and most amazingly, PewDiePie making cameos and appearances on the show. Nowadays, it seems like Filthy Frank is more of a traditional artist, and although The Filthy Frank Show and his YouTube channel in general are now defunct, it doesn't negate the profound impact he had on the internet. Justin Y. Justin Y is a very popular YouTube commenter who is known to appear in almost any popular YouTube video out there. Look at any YouTube video with a huge amount of views, and there's a good chance that you'll find Justin Y in the comments section saying whatever Justin Y thing he has to say. It's for this reason that Justin Y has managed to amass over 700,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, despite never having posted a single video ever. However, he has supposedly made a post on his channel saying that he has retired from his commenting spree, and while you may still find him on newer videos, it probably won't be in as much of a higher density as before.
Ah yes, the grand company Nintendo. The company that pioneered gaming from a dead activity with the likes of the Intellivision and the Atari into a world-renowned hobby while creating rivals such as the PlayStation. Like, Nintendo, how you gonna create a console, then go work with Philips? You made this! You made PlayStation! Sorry, another time. Anyway, one of the biggest creators of video games hates their own fan creations. In January of 2021, GameJolt had several of their Nintendo fan creations taken down. The reason being, GameJolt has a way of monetizing content. Therefore, Nintendo saw this as a way for people to make money off of their properties and decided to take it all down. Since then, any public or monetized Nintendo fan games have been taken down. Will there be an end to the tyranny? Only time will tell.
Doge lore. Doge lore is a very famous kind of meme format which originated from this picture of a Shiba Inu dog. The photo dated back to 2013, and since then it's been really popular around the internet. Doge lore essentially refers to the character named Doge, who is the dog shown in the picture, as well as Cheems, who is based off of another dog named Baltz, and there are other relatives of Doge, which is where Doge lore comes in. There's an entire subreddit dedicated to Doge lore, and it's pretty crazy. There are images relating to Doge lore being uploaded to there constantly, and it doesn't seem like the trend will be stopping anytime soon. Liminal space. A liminal space is a location that has an overlying sense of derealization and familiarization. These can be places like malls at a certain hour, or maybe children's play areas that you don't instantly recognize but just feels oddly familiar to you for some reason. It's believed that liminal spaces can cause derealization and depression to people that view pictures of locations that are often considered liminal spaces. One of the most prominent examples of liminal spaces is the backrooms. The backrooms in themselves are often thought to be what would happen if we ended up no clipping out of reality. The backrooms alone are known as liminal spaces, but they dominantly are the biggest examples of them. It's just such a weird concept, like just looking at photos or images of places that are known as liminal spaces, and you can't really help but feel this sense of depression when looking into it, just because it feels familiar for some odd reason, even if you've never been to a place like it. Ray William Johnson. Ray William Johnson is a YouTuber who made videos on various series and films, including Equals 3, Booze Lightyear, and Top 6. Ray William Johnson has such a massive catalog with all the stuff he's done, and his YouTube channel is still pretty active to this day. He has around 10 million subscribers as of making this video, and it seems like he's still pretty well respected amongst the internet. iDubbbz. iDubbbz is a YouTuber who is most well known for his comedy video series. The series that he has made include Content Cop, Bad Unboxing, and Kickstarter Crap. For the most part, iDubbbz is known for several clips of himself that would later become internet memes, and that's primarily what people know him for. Content Cop especially was well known as it involved iDubbbz targeting and starting controversies over other channels, and it specifically became noteworthy because of some of the people that he would go after, like Keemstar, Leafy is Here, and Tana Mongo. iDubbbz's YouTube channel is still up and running to this day, and around 7.8 million subscribers as of making this video, so still going somewhat strong. Rule 34. I'm sure most of you know what this is, so I'll just go over it really fast. Rule 34 is a website that is dedicated to internet porn, essentially. It's mostly used as a meme, but it genuinely does have a pretty big issue regarding real-life people being brought up on the website without their consent, and we'll get into a more specific example of this later on, so stay for that. Reddit 50/50. Reddit 50/50 is a subreddit which depicts a user posting an image with the NSFW tab, meaning that it is blurred before opening it. Basically how it goes is that you have two things to guess what the image is before opening it up. It's either something completely fine or something completely messed up and terrifying. For obvious reasons, I won't show any of the pictures or anything, but you get the idea. It's a gambling challenge to see if you get something awesome or something fucked up. 2 girls, 1 cup. 2 Girls, 1 Cup is essentially a porno that originated from Brazil in 2007, which features 2 girls defecating into a cup. And it was kind of popular for some time a few years ago. From all the research I got, that's essentially all this entry is referring to. It was made by a guy named Marco Fiorito, who had previously made foot fetish videos, which, considering what he ended up making afterwards, I don't even know why I'm surprised. Red Rooms. Red Rooms are websites and spots that are located primarily on the dark web, which involve people who are tortured for other people's entertainment. Furthermore, viewers watching these people being tortured on these Red Room sites can even donate money to these owners as to how they can further torture the victim. So, are Red Rooms actually real? Well, the Red Rooms themselves being live is completely false. First of all, it's essentially impossible to actually stream on the dark web purely because of the way it's set up. However, it doesn't mean that these actions of people being tortured isn't real in itself. It just isn't being live streamed like how the Red Room websites want you to believe. The Pirate Bay. The Pirate Bay is a website where people can download pieces of media and software without needing to pay for it. With this in mind, there have been countless controversies against the website because of the fact that you are essentially downloading media and software without purchasing for it hand first, which is where the term pirating comes from. Not to mention that throughout the website's 18-year run of being online, several raids on the site have occurred, which were mainly due to copyright issues naturally. Specifically, Sweden in particular is a country who has had anti-piracy communities target the Pirate Bay on multiple instances because they're that against pirating. So yeah, the Pirate Bay is basically a website where you can just flat out download pirated content, and that seems to be the gist of it. Christian. Christian has been a part of the internet for a long time. Many things revolving around Christian have popped up for a very long time. For the unfamiliar, Christian was a notorious comic book writer known for writing the series named Sonichu, and the comics were particularly notable for their incredibly crude nature. Over time though, Christian became a common target for trolls, and it got to a point where many things kept happening to Christian as a result of this. It got to such a point where there are full-on YouTube channels simply basically dedicated to documenting everything in Chris Chan's life. In fact, it is currently believed that Chris Chan has one of the most well-documented lives in human history. It's just absurd. You can watch some YouTube channels documenting Chris Chan's life because honestly, there's just so much to cover and I don't even know where to begin with it. Lemon Party. Lemon Party was an early 2000 shock website which depicted 3 elderly men having sex. That's it. That's literally the whole premise of the website. Moving on. Fur Affinity. Fur Affinity is pretty much just a website for furries, and from what I've seen, it's literally just that. Of course, knowing the nature of a lot of people in the furry community, you're probably gonna find a lot of cursed stuff on there if you decide to visit it, so yeah, there's that to look forward to. I Feel Fantastic. I Feel Fantastic is a classic YouTube horror video. It features a mannequin singing an odd-sounding song whilst occasionally switching clothes and positions. What set people off about this video, though, was midway through it, there was a random shot of a backyard for some reason. The description also got people thinking about the true origin of the video. The description explains about how in ancient Greek mythology, there was this sculptor named Pygmalion, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but whatever, who kind of despised women, so he made a perfect statue bride. Yeah, hopefully you see where this is going. So what's the origin of this video? Well, for a while, it was thought that John Berggren, who was established to have supposedly made the android in the video, had kidnapped women and used the clothes of his victims for the mannequin in the video. However, this isn't true at all. People managed to find a website made by John Berggren that showed that he was indeed the creator of the robot and that he was just someone who is interested in robotics and music. So why did he make the video? I don't know. Probably just an art project of his. So while a theory that he is a serial killer isn't 100% disproven, it's probably not true, and it's most likely that he's just a normal dude interested in robotics who just made a creepy video. Also, I do gotta bring this up as well, but the link to John Berggren's website leads to an IP tracker, so yeah, don't go there. Blankroomsoup.avi. Blankroomsoup.avi is another classic YouTube horror video. It's actually one in a series of 3 videos on a supposed ARG revolving around the series. The first video showcases a man who is sitting and eating a bowl of soup, to which a masked character approaches the man and comforts him as he begins to sob. Another identical figure soon joins him, and then the video ends. There were a lot of theories as to what this video was or what its origins were. There were people saying this might have just been some weird art project, while others claim that this video could have originated from the dark web. One of the more popular theories at the time, though, was that the masked figures in the video kidnapped the man in the video, and the reason why he's crying is because they cooked his wife and then they fed his wife to him. So yeah, basically cannibalism. There were 3 more videos that were made revolving around the masked figures, however. The second video is pretty much identical to the first, with the same guy sobbing while eating the bowl of noodles. The 2 masked figures are then seen standing from the other side of the room before one of them suddenly dashes towards the man right before the video cuts and ends. The third video in this series shows one of the masked figures carrying someone who is tied up before walking away, and then the fourth video shows one of the masked figures guarding the outside of some kind of abandoned building. At this point, somewhat of a story begins to develop here. We can see these 2 masked figures kidnapping and possibly torturing their victims before killing them, as seen at the end of the second video, and then they capture a new victim and guard the building where they are being held hostage. However, things got more interesting when people eventually got into contact with Raymond S. Percy. Yes, that Raymond S. Percy. It turns out that the characters in the blankroomsoup.avi video were actually characters that he owned called Ray Ray. According to Raymond S. Percy, the 2 costumed figures were stolen from him during a performance at the Hollywood Sunset Strip, and later on, the blankroomsoup.avi video was sent to him as some kind of weird fan letter. If you ask me, I'm pretty sure that Raymond S. Percy created the blankroomsoup.avi videos himself as a sort of ARG. From what I heard, the guy in the video is actually a member of Percy's band. So if he's in the videos, then surely Raymond S. Percy would have known about it, which would mean that he was at least part of the ARG. Also, if you listen closely, you can actually hear the guy eating the bowl of soup snickering, and I'm sure if you listen to the laughing next time you watch it, you cannot unhear it. Also, the guy in the first 2 Blink Room Soup videos uses a comically large spoon to eat the soup. I just felt like pointing that out. Tor browser. The Tor browser is an internet browser that allows you to access the internet anonymously, and it also protects your identity online while not acting the exact same same as a VPN. While it isn't illegal outright to use a Tor browser, you can still get marked for suspicious activity for using it. So if you do decide to get a Tor browser for whatever reason, just make sure you're careful. From what I understand, Tor browsers are often used for browsing the dark web, since stuff on the dark web is usually pretty messed up, and not properly protecting your identity on there can lead you to being in serious danger. So yeah. Blue Whale Challenge. The Blue Whale Challenge was a challenge online that typically involved kids on the internet to commit suicide. Basically, someone would tell the participant to do certain things for 50 days. At first, they would be told to do pretty normal stuff, but as it dragged on, it would lead to acts of self-harm, and eventually the participant would be asked to commit suicide on the final day. Supposedly, a man by the name of Philip Budikin was arrested in 2016 because he claimed to have invented the game in 2013, and who also claimed to have incited 16 teenage girls to commit suicide. The challenge itself was held on a whole margin of social media platforms, and all of the people who apparently held the challenge were part of a group called F57 on the social media network VK. In fact, while we're on the topic, VK just so happens to also be on this tier as well, so I'll cover it as well. VK is a Russian social media network that is primarily used in Russia. It was also popular in Ukraine before the website was banned by its parliament in 2017. There have been a whole slew of controversies around VK, specifically involving copyright and attacks that occurred on the site, and it has also had a large history of being censored, such as the previously mentioned case where the site was banned in Ukraine. It's also considered a pirate site by countries like the US, and considering one of my friends is literally a hacker who is also Russian, yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Elsagate. Elsagate is somewhat of an internet rabbit hole on YouTube. Basically, these videos on YouTube of Elsa and Spider-Man doing inappropriate things, and these videos on YouTube have staggered an outrageous amount of views. This ties into something I mentioned earlier, how channels like these can slip by to YouTube Kids and earn just a ridiculous amount of views from all the kids who watch it and don't know how to use the autoplay button. And that's the basis of this rabbit hole, just these channels putting really weird and gross content together, essentially abuse the YouTube Kids algorithm and gather staggering amounts of views. Scary Maze Game. The Scary Maze Game is one of those really old school internet games. Essentially, it's a maze game that progressively gets more difficult as you play through it, and eventually when you get into this one really tight spot, a jump scare of the girl from The Exorcist pops up with a really loud scream, which usually scares a lot of people. It's a really old staple of the internet that's honestly more nostalgic than scary at this point. Jib Jab. Jib Jab is a digital entertainment studio that was well known for the 2004 US presidential election, when their video of George Bush and John Kerry singing "This Land Is Your Land" became viral. Here's a clip of that, I suppose.
Sometimes a brain can come in quite handy, but it's not gonna help you, because I won 3 Purple Hearts. This land will surely vote for me.
Other than that, though, it seems to be a pretty mundane studio. Miss Officer and Mr. Truffles. This is just one of those drama things that occurred on Tumblr, but to give an idea as to what it is, Miss Officer and Mr. Truffles was an online web series about a female police officer and her bear cub sidekick. It was made on Tumblr, and it got into a lot of controversy when a Kickstarter relating to the series was made to create an animated show based off of it, with a goal of $80,000. Since this is freaking Tumblr, lots of people went out and called it a scam, and ultimately the Kickstarter only reached like 10% of its goal before it was cancelled. So yeah, TLDR, an insight in a day of Tumblr. Vaporwave. Vaporwave is a genre of music on the internet that consists of slowed down and chopped up smooth jazz and electric music from the 80s and 90s. Many old school labels are often incorporated with Vaporwave. For example, Coca-Cola and old computer titles like Windows 95 and Macintosh Plus are often associated with Vaporwave. It's supposed to give off like a nostalgic wave with all its old titles and such, and the way the music plays. Nico Nico Doga. Nico Nico Doga, or simply known as just Nico Nico nowadays, is a Japanese video sharing website. So yeah, pretty much the Japanese equivalent of YouTube. It actually used to just flat out use YouTube as its video source for a while, but when it became more popular in Japan, it led to YouTube server infrastructure straining due to traffic and bandwidth. This led to YouTube just outright blocking access of Nico 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 on their site, and although the site did shut down for about 2 weeks, it did return with its own video server, and in 2012 it got renamed from Nico Nico Doga to just Nico Nico. Specifically, before it got rebranded as Nico Nico in 2012, the then called Nico Nico Doga had over 23 million registered users as of 2011, and before it added versions of Nico Nico in different languages such as German, Spanish, and Taiwanese. Outside of that, it's pretty much a Japanese version of YouTube, and it's still one of the most visited websites in Japan today, meaning it's still running strong. U/Yay Video Games. In 2008, a user on Reddit by the name of Yay Video Games made himself known when he commented on a Reddit post on Oblivion mods. The comment was some snarky, sarcastic comment about the uninstall button for Oblivion. The OP replied to the comment saying that the comment didn't make sense, to which Yay Video Games responded with the phrase, "Ubisoft go Steamworks bye bye, always on DRM." After responding to Yay Video Games' reply with visibly more confusion, Yay Video Games went out of their way to spam the utter living hell out of the Reddit post with the phrase, "Ubisoft go Steamworks bye bye, always on DRM," an absurdly amount of times. And by spam, I don't just mean the same one phrase and that's it. I mean like completely different variations of this phrase, just repeated and mixed over and over again. And he did this like over 4,000 times, just the same phrase repeated and mixed in different variations over and over again. Eventually, Reddit mods did do something about this, and Yay Video Games' account was eventually terminated, but it was still just a weird incident that a lot of the internet knows about.
So, Jaden Animations, popular YouTuber and animator, is a female and has an animated persona. Do you see the two things here that are destined for disaster? As Matt talked about, R34, or to put it simply, porn is a rule on the internet that, if it exists, there's porn of it. And oh boy does Jaden Animations exist. So these artists who are actually pretty good artists, they said, hey, I know what I'll do. I'll draw porn of this lady on the internet. And that's what they did. If you search up Jaden Animations without the parental lock on, you'll probably see some. Recently, Jaden has made an official statement saying that she doesn't technically approve of R34 drawn of the Jaden character, but it's not something I'm actively upset by. Her problem with it is that it's too accessible to minors, which I agree with. Another really important quote here, though, is, I'm not saying I condone R34, but I also don't condone relentlessly harassing R34 artists. Please stop attacking people on my behalf. And for the artists, I would just like you to uphold and respect boundaries, and try to keep it within your community. Overall, I just want it to be ignored, and everyone to move on just as I have. I hope everyone can respect that. You heard it not here first, folks. Take care.
Username 666. This is a pretty popular old school YouTube video which showcased someone searching up the user 666 on YouTube but getting no results. However, after refreshing the page a number of times, the page would get distorted and disturbing, and eventually a link to channel 666 appeared. The person goes on to watch one of the videos on the channel, but after doing so, they are unable to escape from the page. Nothing they do works, and eventually a hand comes out of the computer which ends the video. Yeah, I mean, obviously the video is fake. It's a creepypasta, but the level of editing was still pretty impressive for the time. The video was uploaded to YouTube by the user Nana825763. However, the other part about username 666 is that there is a bit of a mystery in real life on YouTube surrounding it. See, for a while, if you searched up username 666 on YouTube, then you would be led to a page that says the channel was terminated for violation of YouTube. However, searching up username 666 now will just lead you to a page saying that the page doesn't exist. So there is still somewhat of a mystery on the whole username 666 debate and what really happened to the channel that used to be on YouTube.
Shadman, or Shadbase, another R34 artist. I seem to cover a lot of those. Matt, what is it with you and giving me the R34 artist? Anyways, Shadbase is another R34 artist who draws everything from their OCs to actual popular characters. I think that's all there here is to cover. Feel free to let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. Oh yeah, and insane.
Obey the Walrus. Obey the Walrus is another classic YouTube horror video. The video begins with a melody of the Itsy Bitsy Spider with this imagery, but then it just starts to get real bizarre with strange editing and aura. The most famous part of the video, however, is this footage of someone dancing in a strange fashion. It turns out that the person in this video is a person named Sandy Crisp, who was known to have a mental disability. Sandy had made a film made about her in 1994 called The Goddess Bunny, which which documented her life. Sadly, Cindy Crisp died from COVID on January 27th, 2021. It's really unfortunate though, because this video put a bad name on someone who had a very severe mental condition, and the person who made the original Obey the Walrus video pinned her to be this scary presence for people who watched it. Thankfully, it seems that Sandy is starting to get some of the respect that she deserves back. Vaporeon copy pasta. This is basically just a copy pasta about doing stuff with a Vaporeon and why it's the best Pokemon to do stuff with. Here's the whole copy pasta, which for obvious reasons, I'm not going to read it aloud, but you can probably get the idea. Behind the Meme. Behind the Meme's a pretty controversial YouTube channel talking about the backstory and such about a lot of memes. Sounds basic enough, right? Well, many people have criticized the channel for the way the channel's creator goes around actually explaining the backstory around the memes. Many people complain the way he explains the memes themselves sounds like he would be explaining it to someone who would have had no idea what a meme is, and people also see that the guy behind the channel will sometimes go on long, unnecessary explanations just to make his video longer and therefore make more money. Also, people just don't like it when jokes are explained academically because according to them, it makes the jokes unfunny. I personally never watched him, but it seems like a lot of people on the internet just don't like his content. Otomad. Otomads, from what I understand from my research, are kind of just edits of videos that use anime to make a replica of a song. They pretty much are made to look and sound like this. My whole understanding on Otomats is that they're pretty much a Japanese equivalent of YouTube poops, but they aren't fully true YouTube poops in the traditional sense. Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life. Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life is a series of stories that usually contain people in sexual situations with Shrek. No, I am not making this up. The phrase Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life would be at the end of these stories, and the phrase soon turned into a catchphrase as a result of the popularity of the stories. A lot of these stories came from 4chan, of course, and what makes this worse is the characters often depicted in the stories are minors. Like, the original story was basically a 9-year-old being sodomized by Shrek, and then other similar stories came after that, and I do not wish to live on this planet anymore. r/place. r/place was a subreddit that if you visited the page, you would see a complete mess. No, that's not an exaggeration. The r/place subreddit was an experiment to test just how weird and messed up people can make the page of a subreddit. See, the experiment went like this. Users could change a single pixel of the subreddit page to any color in a 16 color palette, and said users wouldn't be able to change another pixel of the page for around 5 to 20 minutes. This led to the page looking how it did, and for a while r/place was just an experiment for users to do just this. This went on for about 72 hours before the subreddit was shut down, and obviously you can't see the subreddit in its glorious form anymore. It still remains one of the most elusive experiments ever conducted on Reddit. Microsoft Binbos. Microsoft Binbos was an image of a supposed computer store that was posted on the internet in July of 2001. The name is an obvious ripoff of Microsoft Windows, with the name Binbo referring to cheap. Memes of the image surfaced as early as 2007, and the actual location of this image has been pinpointed to as early as 2013. Nowadays, the image is just kind of a meme, and it was just made as a joke to try and make this dumb Microsoft Windows ripoff, and yeah, we saw how that went. YTMND. YTMND stands for You're the Man Now, Dog, and it is an online community which hosts a whole bunch of edited memes on its website, ytmnd.com. It didn't really start to get popular until around 2005 when the creators of the website added some new features which led to more interaction on the site. It was primarily well known and popular at around that time. However, in 2016, the creators of the site made an announcement saying that the site was likely to shut down soon, and while it did suffer major downtime starting in May of 2019, major support to bring the site back led to the resurrection of the site in early 2020. Nowadays, the site is up and running, and it seems like the response of people not wanting a very old and well-known site like this to shut down is the primary reason why it's still up. Hashtag Tony Tigergate. Tony Tigergate was a hashtag used on Twitter for people who were being blocked by the Twitter account of Tony the Tiger of Frosted Flakes. What happened was many accounts on Twitter of people who identify as furries started making NSFW comments, demands, and statements on the comments of tweets from Tony the Tiger, and it led to the official Twitter account of Tony the Tiger blocking many of these accounts. However, despite that, the account went on to block many other accounts of people who just identified as furries who had nothing to do with the situation itself. This is what led to the hashtag Tony Tigergate being created on Twitter. But then after this, the accounts that got blocked by Tony the Tiger started to go after other Twitter accounts to essentially do the exact same thing to. Like, people started going after Pizza Hut and Chester Cheetah, the mascot of Cheetos. What's even funnier is that the accounts like Applebee's and Chester Cheetah who had these messages sent to them were responding positively to the people who were sending them all of the NSFW comments, which is so hilarious to me. To end off this segment, Tony Tigergate was made to people who were going after the Tony Tiger Twitter account for blocking furries who had nothing to do with the whole situation. Lasagna Cat. Lasagna Cat is a very strange YouTube channel that was known for making very surreal content ever since 2008. However, nobody thought too much of the channel until one particular video was posted titled Sex Survey Results, which also happens to be the channel's most recent video. The majority of the video is just the cast of the channel repeatedly answering the door for statues who then tell jokes, which then zoom out into a newspaper strip that shows one of the characters reading a newspaper, and it essentially loops like that for roughly 4.5 hours. Notice how I said majority, because at the end of the video, something very disturbing happens. I don't think I can even show it because of YouTube being stupid, but just know that the very end of the video is quite unexpected, to say the least. Sad Satan. Sad Satan is a supposed game from the deep web that was played by the Obscure Horror Corner YouTube channel. According to them, they said that they got the game from an anonymous subscriber who found the game via a deep web internet link, and the Obscure Horror Corner YouTube channel played through the game on their channel. Eventually, the game got popular and people eventually started to download and play the game, and this is also important to note, people suspected that the game may have held gore and or child pornography, but the playthrough on the Obscure Horror Corner YouTube channel didn't seem to show any of it. People eventually did begin to find that the link that Obscure Horror Corner got had an error, and that was because the game did actually contain such material within it. Eventually, a new version of the game was posted on 4chan by the user who claimed to have sent Obscure Horror Corner the original Sad Satan link. They said in the post that the version they had wasn't the quote-unquote true version of Sad Satan, and this version was the quote-unquote true version of the game. When people downloaded the game, they would say that their computers would run sluggishly or become completely unresponsive. This should pave the way for what's to come next, while other people said that their computers wouldn't even turn back on when trying to run the game. This version also contained gore and child pornography, and eventually people on Reddit made a clean version that took all of the disturbing subject matter and also took out the virus within the game, which is now dubbed the clean version of Sad Satan. However, the story doesn't stop there. In 2017, a man by the name of Gary Graves was arrested on counts of child pornography possession, and people eventually found out that this man could have been the creator and poster of the virus version of the game. First, his YouTube channel had a video called Sad Satan, and a Reddit account that went by the same name as his YouTube channel was found 4 days before the post on 4chan. So where did Sad Satan actually come from? Well, people think that the Obscure Horror Corner YouTube channel were the ones who made the game in an attempt to boost their channel popularity, which in retrospective did technically work. And it also should be noted that the Obscure Horror Corner YouTube channel themselves have since been abandoned since they posted their Sad Satan playthrough, which sounds odd, but it is possible that Gary Graves, who again was the person who was arrested, could have been the one behind the Obscure Horror Corner YouTube channel, and following his arrest is why the channel stopped receiving uploads. So some people think that Gary Graves and the person behind the Obscure Horror Corner YouTube channel are the same individual. Regardless, the story of Sad Satan is quite a deprived one, and in my opinion, a very gross one. Mama Max. Mama Max is a YouTuber who initially created their channel on May 23rd, 2016. Mama Max, or real name Max, uploads animations, creepy video games, and online predator hunts to his channel. Specifically, his predator hunt videos are the most recent of his videos, and when she started uploading them in 2020. The premise of these videos is to go to sites that are intended for kids, but have adult content on them, and he will pretend to be a young kid to sort of lure in predators so he can contact the FBI or law enforcement to these predators. For a while, some of the predator hunting videos were taken down by YouTube themselves, which led to people creating the hashtag AnswerUsPedotube, essentially calling out YouTube for taking down something that didn't even break their terms of service, and after receiving attention to the takedown, the videos were re-uploaded. Ronald McDonald Insanity. Ronald McDonald Insanity is a YouTube video which features a heavily edited video of a bunch of McDonald's commercials with Ronald McDonald making a bunch of random sounds. The YouTube video was uploaded in 2008, but it has been stated that this was not the original upload of the video. The original upload of the video was made on Nico Video, which has since been taken down due to a copyright notice. The video itself is edited to sound like a song from the Toho project, which we talked about earlier on the Iceberg, and specifically the game embodiment of the Scarlet Devil, or sometimes referred to as Toho 6. The video has managed to accumulate over 16 million views on YouTube, which is probably why it's somewhat well known on the internet.
Go Anime is like Gacha Life for animation. It's cheap and horrible, and please go learn Adobe!
Grave robbing for morons. There's a video on YouTube which features this guy explaining how to rob a grave. Many experts have noted many things that the guy in this video has gone wrong, including how if someone sees you in the grave that you're robbing, that you should knock them out, because when they wake up, they'll think that it was just a dream or hallucination, which I'm pretty sure that isn't how the human body works, but whatever works for you, man. And in the video, the guy says that the next grave he is going to rob is that of the famous Houdini. There actually is still somewhat of a mystery to the video as to who this person is, and according to this Reddit thread talking about the mysterious VHS tape, the guy in the video could be a man named Anthony Kasamasima, but that still hasn't been fully confirmed yet. So there is still somewhat of a mystery as to who the guy in this video is. Radafak Placha. Alright, time to give this guy the recognition he deserves. Radafak Placha is the name of a puppet who was in a show named Slinjeko, which ran in Czechoslovakia from 1979 to 1989. It was fairly popular in Czechoslovakia at the time, but when Czechoslovakia separated to the Czech Republic and Slovakia, this eventually led to the show ending. However, the mascot was eventually found by other countries when a strange video was found on YouTube, which gave a bad light on the character. To keep a long story short, the video was from the person who found the Radafak Placha costume after it was forgotten about, and Radafak Placha is known to be more of a hero, as he apparently had to do with fighting communism in Czechoslovakia at the time. So yeah, we have my boy Radafak just fighting off communism whilst entertaining kids as well. Sadly, most of the episodes of Slinjeko are lost, with about 500 episodes in total. Thankfully, he started to receive more recognition nowadays, and maybe we'll see him later down the road. Scary logos. From what I can tell, scary logos are just referring to how kids back in the day probably would have found some logos that they see on television or other places to look scary. Examples of old school scary logos include THX, BND, and old school Viacom. Not that the logos themselves look unsettling or anything, just that back then our minds just saw something weird with these logos that made them look scary. BME Pain Olympics. The BME Pain Olympics is a competition to see which contestant who participated in the competition had the most pain resistance. Yep, you can probably see where we're going with this. Participants of these Olympics would go so far to prove they had the most pain resistance as to do stuff like body modification and body mutilation. To make things worse, BME, the company that would host these competitions, would take clips of the most disturbing, shocking entries of these competitions and just post them online for people to react to. Although people claim that the actions in these videos are fake, it's still somewhat of a challenge to have people like watch these videos as a way to record their reactions, which is like, do you really need to do that? Barbie.avi. Barbie.avi is a creepypasta about someone who finds an abandoned monitor that holds a video file called Barbie.avi. Upon viewing the video, the viewer sees a woman who seems to be being interviewed by someone off screen. As the video progresses, her face starts to become red, and at one point in the video, she begins to cry, and this pretty much goes on for the duration of the video. Near the end of the video, the woman is shown crying hysterically with her head down as the video fades to black. The person who viewed the video then notices that at the end of the video, the camera is shown walking along some train tracks, and it's at this point that he realizes that the train tracks are a few miles from where he was. So when he and another friend check out the location, he follows the trail that he saw in the video, and it leads to a house in the forest. While exploring, the viewer realizes that the house, in which seems to be abandoned, has things like a clean bathroom and doors in the house that seems to be a bit too new to be there, which, considering the house is supposed to be abandoned, is a bit alarming. That's when he realizes that somebody must be living in that house. Eventually, a search was made into finding out who the women in the videos actually were, and it eventually led to the woman identifying herself in a comment on the video of Barbie.avi. The way they knew that this was the same person was that the team doing the investigation had found pictures of her that looked exactly the same as the woman in the videos. Additionally, other photos were found on Facebook showing what she looks like now. So yeah, the story was just based off of the person in the videos, and she was never really kidnapped or anything that the story actually says. So just to clear suspicions, it seems like for the most part the story is fake. Reddit thinks they found the Boston bomber. On April 15, 2013, during the Boston Marathon, 2 bombs were set off and exploded, which led to the deaths of 3 people and over 250 injuries. After the bombings, Reddit went out of their way to try and identify who actually caused the bombings, and at one point, they thought they had figured out who did it. The original suspect was someone named Sunil Tripathi, hopefully I pronounced that right, who had gone missing the day after the bombings took place. A massive witch hunt was conducted against Sunil, since Reddit believed he was the one who caused the bombings, but that changed when the current suspects of the bombings were found by real authorities. Additionally, on April 23rd, Sunil's body was found in a river, supposedly done as an act of suicide. While this could be interpreted as Reddit had caused this person to kill themselves, it's entirely possible that the way these events took place is just pure coincidence. It also didn't help that places like 4chan and Know Your Meme were also kind of a part of it. The actual bomber was in fact captured later and is currently spending the rest of his life in jail. Canal 5 3am tweets. Canal 5 is a channel which is part of a network of nationwide channels in Mexico. For a while, however, the channel would upload disturbing videos at 3 a.m. on both Twitter and Instagram, and similarly delete said videos at 7 a.m. And apparently they've been doing this for months now. Obviously, from the way they go about posting and deleting these videos, many of them are lost, but if you have made their way to YouTube in the form of re-uploads, the videos in question would be like the one that is currently on screen. From everything I can gather, this is pretty much just an ARG that the channel set up, and although some people think this is the work of a hacker, this is a relatively strong channel, so I don't think that's what's going on here. My Little Pony Cumjar. So, a guy on 4chan thought to himself, you know what? You know what I'm gonna do with my life? I'm going to put a Rainbow Dash figurine in a jar and keep all of my ejaculations in it. And yes, this was an actual thing that happened on 4chan. The user called it the Pony Cum Jar Project, which is gross, and apparently he kept the jar too close to a radiator, so the Rainbow Dash figurine then boiled up inside the jar of this guy's semen, and it caused the semen to turn a brownish color. And then he still kept going on with the project after that happened. So yep, enjoy your time on this planet after knowing this was the thing that happened. Alan Tutorial. Alan Tutorial is a strange YouTube channel. On the channel, Alan makes tutorials on very odd and mundane things like how to lick on a piece of paper and how to fill a tiny bin with dirt. However, very soon you start to realize that a story is beginning to unfold with these videos. In one of the videos, someone breaks into the house of Alan Tutorial, and eventually this leads him to becoming homeless. But despite this, he still makes tutorials on all of these weird and mundane things. Eventually, though, Alan is kidnapped by a mysterious third-party group, and the rest of the series shows Alan in kind of a locked, closed room in which he is paid by the third-party group for making said tutorials. The final video is just called Tutorial and shows Alan escaping the space he is trapped in and making it out of there. The general message of the channel is to kind of mock other terrible tutorial channels on YouTube, and the person behind Alan Tutorial said that he made the whole thing as an art project. Absol Maze. Absol Maze was an odd image that showed a weird maze with like old school computer graphics. What was especially prominent about this image was that there was hardly any information on it. A user on Reddit named SignBear999 posted the image of the weird maze, to which they were curious as to what it was. The maze itself had several paintings of the Pokemon Absol, which is where the name Absol Maze comes from. The same user later makes another post in which they get an old computer and find Absol Maze on it. People believe Absol Maze is just the Windows Maze screensaver, but reskinned, which is more than likely what's going on here. Outside In. Outside In is a YouTube video which explains how to turn a sphere inside out. Yes, this is a real video on YouTube. It's about 20 minutes long, and it goes into all of the aspects and rules of truly turning a sphere inside out. I don't even know where to begin on explaining all of the concepts and stuff explained in that video, but the only important thing to know is that you can turn a sphere inside out. Sally Acorn Sex Doll. So, some guy out there carved out a bunch of bones made out of wood and made a fucking Sally Acorn Sex Doll. And can I just express how insane that is? Like, the dude posted a bunch of pictures of the skeletal structure of the doll and the final result, and it actually looks really good. Like, for God's sake, this guy's got serious talent if he was able to create something as fluid and accurate as this. I guess the guy wanted to make the doll as accurate to a human body as possible if he was gonna, you know, do that with it. Cicada 3301. Cicada 3301 is perhaps one of the most elaborate ARGs ever. Essentially, a mysterious organization sent out a message trying to hire puzzle finders and code breakers, and this led to a massive ARG that involved a whole slew of things. Books, links that led to other websites with other paths and codes, and at some points during the ARG, people even had to go outside and find some pieces of paper with QR codes all over the planet. Needless to say, this was definitely not an average troller doing this ARG. A total of 3 puzzles were posted by Cicada 3301, and it seems as if the third puzzle hasn't been solved yet, and who knows, you might just be the kind of person they're looking for. Kanye Quest 3030. Kanye Quest 3030 is a role-playing RPG made in 2013 for Windows PCs. The game is obviously based around the famous artist Kanye West, who travels to the year 3030 before taking his garbage out. He teams up with other rappers and eventually becomes the one true quote-unquote based god before time traveling back to 2010 to take out his garbage. The game was similar to Pokemon, as every rapper in the game had their own special moves and abilities based on jokes within the rapper community. However, the true interesting part of the game was a discovery people made a couple years after the game came out. There was this in-game console that you needed to type in a password for, but for a while people didn't know what it was. Well, a Pastebin article revealed that typing in the word ascend into the in-game console would take you to a secret section of the game. The game would claim that the quote-unquote real game was a front for this area. You would then be given a QR code in the game, which when scanned allegedly led to an IP logger, which is down now and didn't really seem like it was ever up. The game would then ask the player to put in their private info and then quote-unquote wait to be contacted. It was believed that the IP logger would have been sent to a cult known as Ascensionism, which funnily enough came into urban legend around the same time as Kanye West 3030's release. The cult believed in ideas of reincarnation, but besides that, it doesn't really have any cult-related traits. It was believed the game Kanye Quest was made in order to promote this quote-unquote movement, as it was originally called, and was hoping that the game would recruit more members to the movement. Nowadays though, people just think it was a failed ARG. Brian Peppers. Brian Peppers was a sex offender who was convicted in 1998. Brian himself suffers from either a Pert syndrome or Crouzon syndrome, which, if you don't know what any of those things are, they are both genetic disorders that can lead to deformations, especially within the human face, and Brian had one of these symptoms. So why am I bringing this up? Well, in March of 2003, a photograph of Brian was taken, and eventually in 2005, the photo was posted around online. Knowing the internet, there were a bunch of edits and memes of the picture that went around, with sites like YTMND, which we talked about earlier, going along with this joke of making edits of the photo. This pretty much continued until the actual truth of Brian Peppers came out in January of 2006, and Brian Peppers himself died due to complications of excessive drinking at the age of 43 in 2012. Hanging Munchkin. The Hanging Munchkin is a supposed rumor that in the original print of The Wizard of Oz in 1939, there was a scene which caught an accidental tape of an on-set suicide from one of the Munchkins. The theory, although originally composed as far back as the 90s, didn't really gain much traction until 2011 when a YouTube video showed a supposed old VHS copy of The Wizard of Oz which contained the hanging figure. The general consensus was that the Munchkin had hanged itself on the set, and it wasn't until later that the scene was shot with the hanging Munchkin in the background. It was believed that the scene was edited out in 1988 to all future versions of the movie to contain a bird instead of the hanging Munchkin, and for a while that's what people believed. However, if you watch a pre-1988 copy of The Wizard of Oz and look for the hanging Munchkin section, then the bird that was supposedly edited in the cutout, the gruesome site, is still in there. So yeah, it's fake, and the reason why people believe this hoax so much was because the low grainy quality of the YouTube video from 2011 did look like a hanging Munchkin, but it's just coincidental. Either that or the guy who made the video just edited to make it look like a hanging Munchkin, which is always a possibility. A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants. A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants was a supposed mockumentary that was first put on Amazon listings in 2011. It was meant to release in November of 2011, but November of 2011 came and went, and the mockumentary never came out. What makes this specifically interesting was what little information was put out about the film. We know the title of the movie, the description, and the company that made the movie, but that was it. There were no other updates, announcements, or any kind of info that was known about this mockumentary. People didn't start discovering the listing on Amazon for it until 2014. Right off the bat, people caught sight of several weird things about the cover alone. The background art seems to show no kind of affiliation with Nickelodeon, along with everything else on the cover. Many of the reviews shown on it were from people who didn't exist, and the boy on the front cover wasn't even an actor, but instead just a stock image that you could find online. The topping on the cake was that the company that supposedly made the film, Innovism Films, isn't even a real company. Instead, the name Innovism Films was one of many fake company names used by Regal Films, who were known for creating many mockumentaries. The complete vagueness and mystery around this film created a widespread search to find out what this movie was, if it was made, or if any copies exist. After countless events that led to different people who were supposedly a part of Regal Films and many dead ends, by the end of the search, an individual by the name of Mr. Orange was reached out to, who claimed to be the original creator of the film. During an interview, Mr. Orange claimed that the film had never been made and the listing was just put there and eventually forgotten. It was claimed by him that they would crowdfund the movie in the near future, but the crowdfund never happened, and it doesn't seem like the film will ever be released, or made for that matter. What's even more is that Mr. Orange may not even be the original creator, and that he could have just made up all this info for attention. Regardless of what the circumstance was, it seems like we may never see this mockumentary. Chip-chan. Chip-chan is a Japanese streamer who is known for streaming for hours on end on various streaming sites and later YouTube. According to Chip-chan, she claims that an individual by the name of P implanted a tracking device on her ankle to track her at all times, and that she has been mind controlled by the person who is apparently a corrupt police officer for over 2 decades, and she has just been streaming her life for ages. Many people have tried to figure out what is going on, if Chip-chan is telling the truth, or if something else is going on, whether it is a hoax or if it isn't. The most likely explanation is that Chip Chin is suffering a form of mental illness. However, despite many people's best efforts to determine what is going on here, nobody has a clear answer as to what's actually happening. Medieval found footage. There is a video on YouTube that supposedly details footage of medieval times. However, this video has since been proven to be a hoax, as it has been found that all of the footage in the video that proves to be footage of medieval times was all snippets of horror movies from the 40s and 50s. But it's not all gloomy. Maybe in a future when time travel becomes possible, people will go back in time to take videos of medieval times as well as other time eras. When that will be is up to time to decide. Subway 9/11 coupon. The Subway 9/11 coupon was a fake coupon that was originally created by The Onion. Considering the subject matter of this coupon, people were not happy with The Onion for doing something like this, and the official Subway account eventually called out The Onion for making a freaking 9/11 coupon. Despite that though, somehow two people managed to convince the Subway artist to accept the coupons as legitimate coupons, and the people who managed to trick the Subway artist into accepting the fake coupon filmed it and posted it on YouTube, which is like, I understand one of the people that was pranking the artist was a YouTuber, but still, camera heads. Camera Heads is a supposed creepypasta about the protagonist who finds a backpack with a broken camera, as well as a note which says, "I killed a camera head." He goes out to learn about what the camera heads are before being stalked by one himself, and we follow his slow venture into insanity. The story itself was made in 2009, despite people saying it was made before that, and it even featured elements of an ARG. Descriptions of the camera heads would vary, with people saying they would act as living surveillance cameras, sometimes unwillingly, with other sources saying that the camera heads had literal cameras for heads and were more biomechanical, like something made by H.R. Geiger. What makes camera heads especially interesting is its status. It's said that the story originated from a 4chan thread called /x/Enopedia. Although initially popular, traction of the site began to die down, and this led to the thread shutting down, which took all of the media on there being taken with it, including camera heads. What makes camera heads so interesting is that it's largely unaccounted for, and for a long time people had no idea where any of the story for it was. Well, in October of 2020, a Lost Media Wiki user named Marnin005 discovered an archive link of recent changes to the /x/Enopedia page. It was through here that they found a feed of edits to the initial story of camera heads. While the initial story was found, it didn't include any other details past that point, and most of the story is still lost. Mariana Mordegard Glesgorv. This is a YouTube video that features a 20-second clip of a man looking into the camera, with the last 2 seconds with a close-up of him smiling. However, people eventually discovered that this was just a portion of the full video, and it was eventually discovered that people who did watch the full video had supposedly gouged their own eyes out and sent them to YouTube headquarters, which, like, is nice and all, but boy, how the fuck do you even conceive to do that? Anyways, after this happened, YouTube terminated the full 2-minute video, but decided to leave a 20-second version of the video instead, so that people wouldn't go looking for the full video. There are edits and stuff of the full 2-minute video, but obviously none of them are real, so who knows if we'll ever discover the true full video. I mean, we all know it's fake, but still, to make the environment a bit more enjoyable. 112 Dirtbag. Okay, so this one has quite a backstory behind it, so ready yourself for some stuffing. So, Mara Murray was a woman who disappeared on February 9th, 2004. Nothing noticeably strange or distressing was going on in her life at the moment she disappeared, and she was last seen on Route 112, where a truck driver spotted her as she had crashed her car there. He attempted to phone the police for help, but she told him not to call the police. He did anyways, but by the time help arrived, Mara Murray was gone, and that was the last anyone saw of her. So this is where the internet part of the entry comes into play. So on February 9th, 2012, on the 8th anniversary of Mara Murray's disappearance, a YouTube video titled Happy Anniversary was posted by the channel 112 Dirtbag. The video featured an old man laughing at the camera for about a minute before he winks and the screen fades into some text saying Happy Anniversary. Already some red flags are being raised, but it isn't until you start looking at connections that things begin to turn a little suspicious. The numbers 112 on 112 Dirtbag's name aren't a coincidence. Mara Murray disappeared on Route 112, and Mara Murray's father has gone on record to claim the person who has kidnapped Mara Murray to be a dirtbag. So at this point, some lines begin to connect, and it seems like the person behind the 112 Dirtbag channel may have been the one who kidnapped Mara Murray and was mocking her family through YouTube. Eventually, though, an investigation was actually launched into this guy, and it turned out this guy was just a lunatic who was trying to insert himself into the Mara Murray story and was someone who was just looking for attention. Mara Murray is still missing to this day, though, and it's unknown if she'll ever be found one day. Roro-chan. So just a heads up, this one's going to be diving into a touchy subject, so viewer discretion is advised for this one. Roro-chan, or Roro-chan 1999, was a Japanese live streamer who would stream herself on some Japanese streaming sites, such as the famous at the time Nico Nico. She was 13 when she began to stream, and she would stream herself doing pretty normal things like singing, playing the piano, and just chatting with her audience. As her streams progressed, however, she would do more dangerous activities like running into traffic or standing on the ledge of her apartment roof. Unfortunately, Roro-chan would make her final live stream when in late 2013, she would stream herself jumping off of her 13th floor balcony building, taking her life. She did this because she wanted to become a legend regardless of what she had to do to get there, and her chat advised her to jump off her apartment balcony to do that. Despite many people pleading with her not to do it, she still did so anyway. Many people also claim that she regretted having done it as soon as she jumped off, as she cried for help as she was falling. The footage was actually lost for a bit until a Japanese rock band made an animated music video in 2019 titled Ruru-chan Suicide Show, which was a tribute to Roro-chan. This led to people rediscovering the story of Roro-chan, and eventually the footage was found. I'm not going to actually play the footage of her final live stream here. It's not gory or anything, and most that's shown is just her camera peering over the balcony and it plummeting down, but it's still immensely unsettling and upsetting to view, so I'm not going to show that here. Anyways, let's move on. Erratas. Erratas is a mysterious term that was first brought to attention from some Reddit threads. After a thorough investigation into the term, it was soon hypothesized that erratas might be a sort of tracker of employees of certain companies for the government. However, even getting a hold of this information was difficult because erratas is known to delete mentions of itself supposedly. A group by the name of KFC Murder Chicks was eventually found to be connected to the whole mystery, and later down the line, the supposed leader of the KFC Murder Chicks later went out and stated that erratas was made by him as an ARG. Now, considering how conspicuous it became, it's not unlikely to think that it might be fake. There's no proof to indicate that this person is actually the leader of the KFC Murder Chicks, and even if he was, that he was telling the truth. This might all be part of the game Erratas is playing. Spaghettio's Pearl Harbor tweet. On the 72nd anniversary of Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor, the Spaghettio's Twitter account tweeted an image of the Spaghettio's mascot holding an American flag, with the tweet saying, "Take a moment to remember #Pearl Harbor with us." Considering this was basically Spaghettio's using the event as a promotion for themselves, some people were not very happy with them. Around the time this tweet was made, pretty much the entirety of Twitter blew up about it, and eventually the company deleted the tweet and made an apology saying it was trying to pay respect and not to offend. And if you're wondering why people got so mad at the company, it's because the tweet looked like this. Pingu's The Thing. Pingu's The Thing is a YouTube video which is essentially a remake of the 1982 horror movie The Thing. For people who don't know that movie, it's a movie where a bunch of people discover these alien creatures that can perfectly assimilate and transform into living beings. This video is a remake of that movie in the form of Pingu, which shows a very brief recap of what happens in the movie using Pingu characters. The channel that uploaded the video, Lee Hardcastle, is well known for making various types of horror stop-motion videos, and this video is one of many creations of that channel. Anthroplanes. Anthroplanes are a genre of art where people will make art of animals into transportation. So basically people will make art of animals and have them turn into planes. and they'll be called anthroplanes. Anthroplanes aren't the only example of this. There are anthrotrains, which is the same premise, only animals drawn as trains, and anthrocars would be the same thing, just with cars. Stuff like this usually exists on For Infinity, which we already discussed on the iceberg, and some of the art is more out there, to say the least. Puppet Yoda. Puppet Yoda refers to how in the first 3 Star Wars movies, the character Yoda was made as a puppet, but in The Phantom Menace and further on, Yoda appeared in those movies by CGI. Many people argued on the internet that the Yoda puppet was much more realistic and sorrowful, and it was easier to believe he was there in the movies, whilst the CGI version of Yoda that appeared in the rest of the movies weren't as easy to feel was real, which makes sense. I also found this YouTube channel of someone who uses a Yoda puppet in some of his videos, but it's most likely the iceberg is referring to this topic right here. Windows XP source code leak. In late September of 2020, news broke out that the source code for Windows XP had been leaked. A torrent file for downloading the code was soon published anonymously, and it became really well known. Obviously, the source code for an operating system being leaked was not good for various reasons, and even though less than 1% of people who had Windows computers were using Windows XP at the time this happened, that still makes up like millions of people who could have potentially been at risk. Although the source code that was leaked itself was shown to be incomplete, it was still authentic, which basically means it's still harmful. So if for whatever reason you're still using Windows XP, might want to switch. Deep Internet music genre. Deep Internet music is a genre of music that uses obscure or relatively unknown YouTube videos as samples for its music. These videos are typically found using websites like PewDiePie, which takes a random video off of YouTube with very few views and puts it on the site for you to watch. The music itself that is associated with Deep Internet music will sound like sound collage or field recordings, and in some instances, the music may even sound familiar to Vaporwave. To give you an idea of how obscure the videos used in Deep Internet music have to be, it is said that any video that is above 20 views is automatically excluded as Deep Internet music, which means the content itself has to be like really unknown and obscure. "1444. 1444 was the title of a viral video that was popular in places like YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. The video itself featured a man with a pistol aimed at his head, who spoke some Russian before pushing the trigger. The video was fairly popular for a little while before being mass banned from YouTube. The video was originally a live stream that took place on VK, and that the suicide was actually real. Then there's the urban legend around the video. It's said that the man who committed suicide in this video had made the video to curse people, meaning anyone who watched it would be cursed. The only way to break this curse would be to say the date in which his suicide happened. I'm not one to say whether or not this is real, but all that I do know is that the video is pretty disturbing, which is why I'm not going to be showing it here.
The longest piece of literature ever recorded is a Loud House fanfiction. Is there anything more I need to say about this? Every day, we stray further from God.
Wyoming Incident. The Wyoming Incident is a relatively well-known TV hijacking case in which some local programming stations were hijacked by a hacker, to which the signal first introduced the message of, "We present a special presentation," and oh boy is it special. The rest of the broadcast were different shots of these low-quality, grainy, disembodied heads that followed with messages like, "You are ill," "What hides in your mind," and "You can lose everything." What's especially notable about this hijacking was the effect that it had on the people who watched it. People who watched the hijacking complained of vomiting, headaches, and even hallucinations. It was eventually discovered the reason why these happened was because the hijacking played itself in a frequency that might induce stuff like headaches and hallucinations. So that's the Wyoming Incident hijacking. What not as many people are aware of is the ARG that followed the hijacking, and this is the point where I officially gave up. Eventually, people managed to find an ARG relating to the Wyoming Incident on a website called the Happy Cube Forums, and let me tell you, this ARG was complete madness. There were mentionings of cult activity and rituals, and even the leadership of the ARG itself was entirely unclear, to the point where it was constantly being juggled around by multiple people. To conclude, The ARG for the Wyoming incident is pretty much dead now, and I have literally nothing else to say about it. Moving on. Scan. Scan refers to a series of YouTube poop music videos that were originally based off of a song called Scan 1.99 CRK, which was made on a website called kaijinjukebox.com. Matt, you're asking, if they're based off of this song, what do they sound like? Well, my dear viewer, some of the remixes sound like this. They were primarily recognizable because many of the remixes were low in quality, and that was literally all I could get from this. Wonder Bread fetish. The only thing you need to know for this one is that there is a guy out there who commissions artists to draw rich white women at a grocery store overfilling their carts with expensive Wonder Bread. And that's all I'm gonna say because that's all you need to know. Someone put a nail inside a fan artist's cookie because of an Undertale ship. So, the story goes like this, and yes, there is a legit story to this one. So, there was a convention in Taiwan, I think, and basically a fan of Undertale saw a drawing of another fan of Undertale. This drawing was of a ship that fan number 1, who I'm going to call him, does not agree with. So, what did they do? They gave fan number 2 a cookie with a goddamn needle in it, and later, fan number 2 eats the cookie, and the freaking needle pierces their tongue, and they make a post about it. Like, I understand if you don't like this shit, but I don't know. Maybe it isn't something you should, I don't know, murder someone about. I'm sure it was a lot more gruesome and awful, like, in the moment. But stuff like that you can't really help but look at and just be like, why would you do that? Mr. Anime, who would later be known as Lenscap Productions, was a YouTuber who would primarily review anime. His real name was Trey Sessler, and was considered by many people as someone who was kind and straightforward. As time went on though, there were signs that his sanity was slipping, such as when he would make videos about serial killers, along with using actual guns in his videos. In February 2012, Trey announced he would be going on a 2 to 3 week break to reward himself. However, later in March of 2012, Trey would murder his family and would later destroy his house. His original plan was to then enter a high school and kill up to 70 students. However, after having murdered his parents and brother, he felt that the situation was all too real and waited outside the house before he was arrested. Trey later admitted that he had planned for the event for several years by storing weapons in his college dorm, and also revealed that he had a massive fascination with killers, two things that we somewhat already knew, given what his content derailed to before the event took place. Trey was then given a life sentence with parole opportunities specifically taken away at Trey's request. His channel was then later terminated by YouTube in 2020, however, re-uploads of his later videos still exist. Pedophiles on Craigslist. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Craigslist is an advertisement website on jobs, housing, items, and more, along with discussion forums. Craigslist is overall well known for being sketchy and weird, but there have been several cases of pedophiles using Craigslist. How they would do this is they would put up advertisements for something like selling a kid, which yes, that is a thing that sadly can happen on Craigslist, who are then bought out by other pedophiles. And you can probably imagine the rest. You have 30 days to pay me $5 million. You have 30 days to pay me $5 million is a YouTube video which features someone with a camera crawling through what seems like an old Egyptian pyramid or structure. The person claims that if he is given $5 million within the next 30 days, he will show off all the secrets hidden within the pyramid. From all the research I did, it didn't seem like this actually led to anything. And strangely, the website that supposedly allowed you to donate the money to whoever was behind this didn't have any way of actually donating or depositing any money at all. This might have been a viral marketing stunt, or could have been a failed ARG. Either way, it was still somewhat of a letdown to many. The Linux mascot was almost a persona. So the current mascot of Linux, as some of you may know, is of a penguin. But there were a few posts I found that said the Linux mascot was actually almost a furry. Specifically, the Linux mascot was almost a fox named Xenia. As it turns out, Alan Mackey, who was the one who drew the original mascot of Linux, described that Xenia was actually a boy at first, and an artist's representation of Xenia led to her becoming trans off-screen as a result of the art. So yeah, that's a little history lesson as to how the Linux mascot was almost a persona. Apparently the people running Linux just wanted to make the penguin the mascot, and that's why it changed. Hirogata. Hirogata is a supposed Japanese commercial that was shown in schools in the late 1990s to early 2000s. The first accounts of this commercial appeared on the anonymous message board 2 channel, in which it first appeared on a thread about creepy advertisements and commercials. The commercial itself consisted of these 2 white figures on a black background. Every single second, one of the figures would blink and then return to its original position, and then the next would do the exact same thing. Later on in the commercial, there would be text saying every 2 seconds a man dies on Earth. This was pretty much the entire commercial, and people to this day still don't truly know what it is. The current theory is that this commercial was shown around Japanese schools as a way to teach railroad safety. There are some conflicting aspects of the commercial from the different people who claim to have seen it, like the general time the commercial aired, but it's been rounded down that it appeared around 1996 to 2003, and there are people saying that there was a railroad crossing sign with a sepia colored background, with other accounts saying that there was no railroad sign or no background at all. Despite all the search efforts and people who claim to have witnessed this commercial, its existence still has not been confirmed, and although there are many recreations of it on YouTube, the real commercial is still yet to be discovered, if it even exists. Goat worship. Goat worship refers to how for a long time in history there has been a profound worship of goats, specifically in occult and mystical traditions. I believe it's specifically referring to the sabbatic goat, which also holds the name Baphomet, and if you don't know what the sabbatic goat is, it is a representation of the symbolization of perfect opposites. So for example, you have male and female, good and evil, half human and half animal, and other kinds of examples of these polar opposite elements. This could also be referring to how heavy metal bands usually use goats in songs and covers and art because the goats are known as a vessel of the devil. I'm not actually entirely sure if I got all the details right on this one, so I implore you to do your own research on this one if you can, but it seems like there is still a good amount of goat worship around. Columbine shooter fandom. Ever since the Columbine High School massacre in 1999, there have been a lot of examples of fandoms of the massacre sprouting up online. Many of the fandoms around the massacre are seen as dark examples of internet communities, and many of the members of said communities are typically unstable and violent. I've seen a bunch of art and renders and edits of the 2 shooters, and it's just really sad that a fandom like this is just allowed to exist on the internet, and it seems the events of the Columbine High School massacre are so far-reaching and extensive. Satan Sphinx. Satan Sphinx was a supposed urban legend video that surfaced in 2009, and that was banned by the US government. The reason why it was banned was because it was said that the video's satanic messages and rituals could lead to the viewer committing suicide. The contents of the video are said to have rapidly flashing and rotating images of gore along with high-pitched audio that would irritate the viewer, and it is said by the end of the video the viewer will become depressed and sleepless. Some people believe it was an experimental video conducted by the CIA to brainwash people to instead commit acts of mass murder and then suicide, but obviously there is no proof of that being true, and the actual existence of the video still hasn't been confirmed yet, but apparently though this image is a frame of the video, but again that hasn't been fully confirmed to actually be the case. Nevada Tan. Nevada Tan relates to a murder which occurred in a Japanese elementary school in 2004. The murder itself revolved around an 11-year-old girl killing a 12-year-old classmate while in school. The supposed reason why she had decided to murder her classmate was because of an online quarrel that had taken place before the killing. The incident eventually kickstarted a debate to whether or not the age of criminal responsibility in Japan, which was previously lowered after a set of murders in 1997, should be lowered again. So what does Nevada Tan have to do with this? Well, after a photo of the girl responsible was leaked online, even though the country didn't want them to be leaked, but you know, the internet, she was found wearing a Nevada State University sweater, which was where the name Nevada Tan came from, and she is often referred to as such around the internet. Global Worldwide. Global Worldwide is an odd YouTube channel that seems to be run by a bot. The contents of this channel are of a set of videos that are given this weird effect to them before being uploaded to YouTube. The reason why I said it's run by a bot is because the upload frequency of the videos on this channel seem to be too frequent to be done by a human. People have said that the bot that runs this channel uses a video fetching app or site to fetch a set of videos from YouTube, to which it then applies the random effects to said videos before uploading them. It should be noted that the channel has not uploaded in about a year as of writing this video, so it's likely that this was just some kind of experiment. Grapekun. Grapekun was the name of a Humboldt penguin that was located at the Tabu Zoo in Japan. What was particularly hilarious was that the people working at the zoo placed a cutout of an anime character in the area Grapekun was in, and Grapekun gained an attachment to it to the point where Grapekun earned international fame. Sadly, in October of 2017, Grapekun passed away, and although his time was short-lived, he is still remembered by many. Autism Simulator. So, this one was a little hard to talk about since there are many autism simulators that I found, primarily ones that are in VR, but basically autism simulators are pretty much that, a simulation of what it's like to be someone who is autistic. I think the reason why so many autism simulators exist is to show the perspectives of the different types of autism. I mean, after all, there are different types of autism that are ranked in several kinds of severity, so having just one kind of autism simulator wouldn't be accurate since it only represents the eyes of some people who have autism. And as someone who has autism themselves, I don't entirely know how to feel about it. Like, I get what these people are trying to do with giving people a better idea of what it's like for people with autism. Yep, I don't really know how to feel about it myself. Like, I know it's vague, but it's just something I feel sort of neutral about. LHOHQ. LHOHQ, which stands for Laughing Horses Orifice Headquarters, is a bizarre website full of flashing lights and strange imagery. The website in itself is a massive rabbit hole with many of the images and strings of text on the site leading to completely different pages with even more links within them. Many of the pages on the site relate to US politicians and conspiracy theories. In fact, one of the most well-known things about LHOHQ is that there are several emails, phone numbers, and even addresses of several politicians on some of the site's pages. However, a lot of the info on these pages are wrong, which means that all of the data could have very well been collected by a bot. While many people believe this to be an ARG, that isn't very clear. There really aren't any elements of an ARG on the website, so it being one doesn't seem too likely. Also, and I had to emphasize this, but it's not a good idea to go out and contact any politicians whose info is on here, as doing so can lead to severe consequences. LHOHQ has a whole ton of content on its website, and people still aren't entirely sure what it is, though it could possibly be an art project. ToddlerCon. So, ToddlerCon is basically a hentai that involves toddlers, and that's all I'm going to elaborate on. Pamper2. Pamper2 is the name of a person who has made a fursuit called Sandy Wolf. However, he doesn't go by the name Sandy Wolf in the fur community, he just goes by his name Pamper2. He is also claimed to have an obsession with Pokemon and diapers, which that was really nice to know. And other than that, he's just known for his involvement with like electrical engineering, but that's about it. Also, some of the images I found while doing research on this topic were very cursed. I won't show any on screen or anything, but just know if you do decide to go searching on your own, you have been warned. Nick Bates. You know, there comes a time where I kind of have to draw the line when I come across something that's just so pathetic, but I also understand that the whole point is to explain what these are, so prepare for some serious grossness. If you do want to just skip this one, then you can skip to this timestamp right here because I am about to explain a whole plethora of disgusting stuff here. But with that being said, Nick Bates. I don't even have an introduction to this guy, so let me just explain the things he's done because that's all that really matters in this scenario. First of all, he has immensely rotten teeth, which is shown from the various pictures of him. So you might just assume, well, guess he never brushed his teeth or performed proper oral care, right? That's not really what he did. His teeth are so rotten and gross because he eats his own shit, and this is something that he has admitted to. Additionally, he has admitted to never showering, and when he does his thing, he doesn't even wipe his own ass. Instead, he'll wipe his shit all over his walls, and then he'll masturbate on his own feces, which at this point, I would be fine with just moving on, but there's more. He has openly admitted to being a pedophile and constantly talks about such on his Twitter, but arguably the worst of all, he has molested his 8-year-old sister and tried to send a video of him masturbating with his own feces to try and prove his innocence. Finally, he stalked a lesbian named Anna for several years, and despite blocking him on all her social media accounts, Nick still believed one day they'd get married. The only solace in any of this is that he thankfully is arrested now and is serving a long, long sentence. It's just, I wasn't expecting it to be this bad, and the fact that I even had to describe it to you all, it was painful, and hopefully we never have to do it again. WizardChan. WizardChan is a website primarily aimed at young male virgins. The whole idea of the website is to share your interests and experience as a virgin, and specifically, it is aimed to men who have been a virgin for over 30 years, and of course, have had no kind of sexual experience. From what I heard, talking about women at all on the site was banned, and it also says on the rules on the website to not post about voluntary real-life social activities, i.e. going to a bar or party, which I just found hilarious for some reason. Aside from those hilarious rules, it seems to be somewhat of a normal thread website, and there isn't too much to discuss about it. Daisy Leaves. Daisy Leaves is the title of an odd video uploaded by the user Robert Helpman on YouTube. The video consists of this covered, bagged up body, which is most likely a corpse, and it just lays on the floor next to a door. The next shot shows the corpse gone, to which someone appears and stands outside of the door before the video ends. This video is a part of a series of videos on this channel, with the first video being titled Daisy Arrives, with the following video showing routines and such with the same bagged up body in the video, and with the final video titled Daisy Leaves. It's obviously fake. It's of course telling the story of someone named Daisy who arrives in someone's home, doing a bunch of stuff in the home before leaving, and it's probably just an art project someone decides to do one day. r/snoo hentai. r/snoo hentai is a subreddit which contains porn of the Reddit icon. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I mean, I suppose it's not just the Reddit icon. There's like memes people post on there, and there's different variations of the icon and those kind of situations. And yes, in case you're wondering, I had to go through the mental trauma of looking at all of that, and I did not have a good time. Worry official. Okay, I know that this isn't something that I'm supposed to say on these iceberg videos because I get slandered a bunch for doing this, but I couldn't find anything on the internet about this. I tried searching everywhere to find any kind of information about Worry Official, but all I found were a bunch of music videos with the word Worry and Official in their titles. Allegedly, from what I heard, it's an odd YouTube channel, but if it is, I cannot find it. Maybe it got terminated, or it isn't a YouTube channel at all, and wherever I heard that from is complete BS. Maybe it's on the dark web, which is why I can't find any info on it on the clear net, which I'd rather not scavenge there because I prefer to keep myself safe, unlike other people. So if you have any kind of info on this topic, like at all, please comment down below. I'll definitely pin it. But it saddens me to say that I have failed you all, and I am deeply sorry for this failure I have brought upon you all. Unlisted YouTube videos. This one's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, there are countless unlisted videos on YouTube that could have potentially triggering or secretive things on them that none of us would know about. This could also be talking about how some versions of other previous videos are unlisted due to issues like copyright and content not being eligible for YouTube. This Madagascar video had to be redone and re-uploaded for both these reasons, but the original video can be found in the form of an unlisted video. Either way, unlisted YouTube videos can hold various different purposes, whether unsettling or not. Xmist. Xmist is a YouTube channel that only has one published video. In the video, the person says that he is an official cultist and to quote-unquote pray for X. Upon looking for the comments, someone asks who X is, to which the Xmist YouTube channel replies with Sonic.exe on Google. For people who don't know what Sonic.exe is, it is a now notorious creepypasta about someone who plays a cursed Sonic game, and X, who is basically just Sonic in that story, is the main antagonist. I'm pretty sure this is just some channel used to dedicate that story in the X character, and considering I honestly couldn't care about that creepypasta, we're gonna move on. Bonfire.mp4. So Bonfire.mp4 is a supposed video that features a bunch of people hanging around a bonfire. During the video, the bonfire explodes around the people and You can probably figure out the rest to yourself. The reason why I couldn't find the video was because the only piece of information I could actually get from this topic was the creator of the iceberg stating that he had a personal experience in which he found the video. I looked everywhere I could for this thing, but I have not been able to find this video, so if the OP can potentially link the video, that would be cool, but until then, we're gonna move on. SX.xt is the name of an artist that released 2 songs on Apple Music. If you go to their page now, their stuff leads to a 503 error page, but a YouTube video with one of their songs does exist. The song itself is actually pretty normal. It's something that you would hear from a video game OST. Here's a snippet of the song on YouTube in case you're curious. I'm assuming the reason it's on the iceberg and this low down especially is because the artist is super obscure. After all, they only released like 2 songs and one of them doesn't even seem to be available anymore at all, so we even have a mixture of lost media in there. All lost media is on the internet. I'm pretty sure this one came from the iceberg that Bleeman on George covered, considering this was also on that iceberg. Regardless, this is an idea that all lost media is not lost and that it is just somewhere on the internet waiting to be found. I mean, the internet is a pretty big place after all. Perhaps there are some pieces of lost media that are truly washing through the vast waves of the internet that we don't know about that are waiting to be rediscovered. The first users on the military internet, ARPANET. The ARPANET, otherwise known as the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, was the first wide area network which later became the technical foundation of the internet. It was also one of the first networks to implement the TCP/IP protocol. The ideas of this project began as far back as 1966, and without going into too much detail, it expanded quite a lot, especially throughout the 1980s, and it was formally decommissioned in 1990. This, of course, happened after the future commercialization of the World Wide Web, the present-day internet. The first users of this ARPANET were 2 individuals by the names of Charlie Klein and Bill Duval, who pretty much connected 2 different kinds of computers, which is often seen as a milestone event in the founding of the internet. So this ARPANET was essentially the building blocks of what would become the internet. And without this project that was conducted, we may not even have an internet today. I just think it's crazy. It's like the butterfly effect, where if this one project was never conceived, we probably wouldn't have a very major and important part of society today. Undiscovered ARGs. This is pretty much just the concept that there are several ARGs that have remained undiscovered by the public, especially those that have been caught in the eye of the general public. So, for example, me. Did you know I attempted to start an ARG in 2020 or so? Well, probably not, but you wouldn't have if I didn't tell you. The ARG I attempted to start is an example of an ARG that had gone undiscovered by the general public. Essentially, this topic on the iceberg is the idea that there are several ARGs like this, but knowing how wide and vast the internet is, it's likely there are thousands, if not millions, of ARGs out there that have gone unnoticed. We never know what secrets have remained unscathed and just how many of them there are. The dead internet theory. The dead internet theory is a conspiracy theory that the internet supposedly died sometime in 2016 or 2017, and it has since been overrun by bots that have been created by governments to manipulate the culture of our world. That's a lot more dramatic than what it actually is. It's just an idea that the internet has been overrun by bots and the internet just feels more empty now. Not that it's necessarily dead. People claim that artificial intelligence has caused bots to become so smart that not only have they disseminated content, but they are also generating it. Many people say that the reason this is the case is because the internet just generally has felt and looked different ever since 2016, like how comments seem to get recycled and reused. People say that companies supposedly caused this because they want people to buy their stuff and push agendas, which kind of makes sense. However, people also believe that many politicians and actors that we see on TV aren't actually real, but they are instead just CGI, which I don't know about that one. In the end, it's up to you to decide, but next time you're talking to your best friend on Discord, that might not be a real person. It could be a super smart bot trying to trick you into buying something, I don't know. Okamoto. So initially, as I was looking into this one, I only found this one YouTube video called Okamoto's Dancing, and it seemed to be primarily these immensely distorted figures dancing to a Christmas song. At first, I had no idea what this video was, and needless to say, the description didn't help all that much. Eventually, though, I did find that Okamoto is referring to a meme format that is often used in Japan that involves editing a picture of someone named Masami Hisamoto from a promotional interview called My Beautiful Life. The reason I couldn't find any other memes or videos of this is because it's primarily on Nico Nico Doga, which obviously I don't watch, and the video titled Okamoto's Dancing is mainly just a branch off of that meme format. And that is it for this video. Thank you all very much for watching this whole thing. It took me quite a while to make, and it was definitely an experience learning about all the things that I didn't know about. Again, special thanks to Matt's Animates for helping me make this video. He's a very cool dude. Please go check him out. He deserves all the love you can give him. And of course, if you like what you saw, consider subscribing as you can get caught up with spicy videos like this one. Also, make sure to check out Just Some White TPR on Reddit. They're the one who made this iceberg. I'll link the original Reddit post. And with that, I'll be signing off. Thank you once again for sticking with me, and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.
Whoa, hey everyone, thank you for watching my video. This took a lot of writing and planning, and I really want to thank Matt's Animates for helping me. He's a real cool guy. You all should go subscribe to him. He's really friggin' awesome. And I'd also like to thank Ryan Animates for helping out with the BFB part. Links to both of their channels will be in the description. And, Matt's Animates is the coolest guy ever, and you should follow him and subscribe and send him $20. Yeah. Okay, bye.